Good morning, everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and before we get started, I want to remind you, if you intend to speak on items on the agenda, which is number 5, or general public comment, number 10, you need to have filled out a comment card and get it to Miss Jackie. I'll invite everyone to stand for Miss Reese to lead us in prayer, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's bow our heads. Oh, gracious Father, we come before you with thanksgiving in our hearts. And we ask you this morning to be with us and lead and guide us in the way that you have us to go. Lord, we thank you for the many blessings that you bestow upon us. Lord, we ask you to remember our sisters and brothers that are in the war. And let us pray for them, Lord, and just lift them up, because we realize, Lord, that you are God of all things. Lord, let us make decisions here today that will benefit our children and our whole town. Lord, I'm thankful for all the many things you've done for me and all of us. We thank you for the life you let us live, and we appreciate all the things that you do for us. We thank you for watching over our children and not letting our school be closed this year because of COVID. Lord, we give you thanks and we give you praise. Jesus, we're asking you to watch over us. Let the words of our mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. Lord, I say thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item 2.1, approval of the minutes of the Blades County School Board regular meeting February 10th, 2022 at 6 p.m.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 3, approval of the February 2022 finance reports.
I motion.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments?
I just want to say thank you to Carol. She was so helpful to me this month on going over the new formats, and her explanations were very well done, and I just learned so much from her in a 30-minute conversation. I'll be calling some more, Carol. I just appreciate your hard work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, board members, and again, if you have any questions, please reach out.
Thank you, Carol. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item 4.1, report on the Guardian Program, presented by the Blades County Sheriff, David Harden.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Blades County Sheriff David Harden for the record. So when I was asked to do this, of course it was right during Child Nickel Week, so been a little hectic. What I've prepared are handouts. We'll go through these together. This is a great deal of information.
Thank you.
And it would be my recommendation that we go over this briefly, and then you study it, and then call me back for questions, or I'm happy to meet with you individually. So obviously, this program was started after the Parkland shooting, and it has been widely criticized and praised. And I'll go on the record as saying I am very pro-gun, very pro-Second Amendment, and I do believe the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. However, I'm also very hesitant to have them in the hands of civilians on a campus. Not against, just hesitant. Did I give you one, Jack?
We'll be arming teachers, principals, everybody, nobody, somebody, I just,
The way I understand it, you can have school board employees armed, you can hire private security, or you can hire people specifically for the job of carrying on campus. So this last one I'm giving you would be the lesson plan that would be facilitated by a law enforcement instructor. In the last pages of this, we've done some preliminary figures to show you what this would cost. Initial year is what we've got listed. Obviously, the cost would go down for years after. I have some of these extra if anybody would like them afterward. So, my recommendation, we start with the actual law itself, which is the program. It's called the Coach Aaron Feist Program, Guardian Program. That's in the colored initial one I first handed out. So in the beginning of it, it talks about the purpose of it, how it came to be, when it was instituted. So it says sheriffs are tasked with assisting school boards and charter schools, governing boards, and providing access to the Guardian Program. Program to aid in the prevention and abatement of active assailants on campus. Any person certified as a school guardian has no authority to act in a law enforcement capacity. So that doesn't give you the right to make arrests or detain people, only gives you the right to engage an active assailant. You, as a school board, have the right to vote this in. You can decide that you're going forward with it. I, as the sheriff, have a right to deny it as far as my involvement, which leaves you the option of reaching out to a neighboring sheriff that possibly has it, or other options. And I'm not saying that's what we would do, but that's the way it works. I'm over on page 5 now. It says each school district board and superintendent shall partner with law enforcement agencies or security agencies to assign one or more safe school officers. So in this, you see Baker County is an advocate for it. They've had good luck with it. I don't know if this person wants to be named or not, but the one that I spoke to in preparation for this, I explained that I would reach out and try to get pros and cons. And so some of these articles that I've handed out to you are for, and some of them indicate the problems that are occurring within the program. I think if you'll turn to the back of the page where I gave you on this will give you the shock factor. The total estimated cost per guardian for the first year startup is $12,839 per individual. Now that's buying the guns, the clothing if you're going to have them closed, if you're going to have them in street clothes. The radios themselves are $5,000, and the law requires that they be in contact with my office. So that means they have to have one of our radios. So that's where it gets cost prohibitive. Now, in the pros, like I said at the beginning of my conversation, the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. So more guns on campus in the right hands, I believe, is a positive thing. However, when you start looking at the cons on this, some of the things that they've experienced, you've got, just like my industry, your industry has a multitude of turnovers in employees. I've been going through it. I know y'all have been going through it. So you put this kind of money into somebody, you train them up, and they go to the next X County to go to work, you just lost that money. So, the schools and agencies that are experiencing this say it's a constant turnover. You are constantly in training new people and watching them leave. So that's one of the cons. That's something you need to keep in mind. As far as the pros, again, like I said, some counties, we queried all 67 counties through my assistant and the Florida Sheriff's Association. There's 43 counties that currently have it in some form or fashion. Some of them are solely guardian, some of them are hybrid guardian and SRO, some of them are hybrid guardian and private security. So you've got a mixture out there. Some of them they consider very successful programs, some of them wish they had never gone down that road. They've had employees pawn their guns that are issued to them by the sheriff's office, some of them multiple times. They've had employees leave them in places. But this is just the negative side. Some of them employ pepper gas, and pepper gas has been deployed on students inadvertently. So you've got those aspects to look at as well. Now on the pro side, if you can't afford an SRO, this is really your only option. When this program was first started, the governor funded it wholeheartedly. And this is nothing against Governor DeSantis. I think he's a phenomenal governor. But last year, 2019, they cut it by $41 million, the program.
What
So
did that leave?
I'm sorry?
What did that leave? What figure was left?
I believe that left somewhere in the neighborhood of $38 million. So that's to be dispersed statewide.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of these things that they initially tell you you can be reimbursed for, there may not be funding there for it.
So initially, there was reimbursement for the training
Almost 100%, dollar for dollar.
and not anymore.
Right. Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there's a great potential that there could be a reduction in what you receive as far as reimbursement. So I would encourage you to go over this material. It's been pulled from all sorts of sources. Read it in depth. Call me if you got questions. I'm happy to come back again and speak to you once you all are up to speed. And then we can discuss it as a reality.
Sheriff Hardy,
Yes,
now
ma'am.
you're talking about people that we gonna hire somebody to implement this program, implementing this program.
No, that's
teaching.
not what I'm saying. I would think most school boards utilize employees already employed.
Already employed.
Yes, ma'am.
So that means
And
that,
honestly, I can think of a few in the Glades County school system. I can honestly think of a few that are stationary. They're not people that jump around, and that I think are of sound mind, both spiritually and mentally,
okay,
to do something like this. So you do have some people that I think could do it.
okay, that's what I want.
Now, one of the things that they have to go through before we even get down that road is a rigorous psychological examination.
And who
that-
provides that?
That's done by someone we provide, someone that works with the state of Florida that is legal for backgrounds for law enforcement.
Sheriff Harden,
All my employees go through a psychological.
what was the amount of counties that are currently
I
participating?
believe
in
it's 43
43 counties?
Out of 66,
out of 67.
67.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Sheriff, have you formed an opinion at this point on how you feel about us moving forward? Would you recommend or
When this
not
was,
recommend?
when this was initially brought forward, I met with the superintendent at the time, Scott Bass, and the chair of the school board. And together we agreed this was not for us at that time. Right now, I'm open-minded. I'm willing to sit down and talk with y'all. It's gonna be an expensive proposition if you go down that road. But like the person that come to me with this said, I would feel remiss if we didn't do everything possible to prevent a student from being killed. So maybe it is a real possibility, maybe it's something we can do together. Maybe y'all would rather not. But I'm willing to stay in the middle of the road till we discuss it.
You're not gonna tell us what to do.
No, I'm not gonna try to lead you.
At one point in your conversation, you said something about it being a good program for schools who do not have school resource officers, or at least that's what I thought I heard you say. We have a resource officer full-time in all of our schools, is that
We
correct?
are blessed in that regard, yes, ma'am.
Yes, so we have at least one law officer who is armed in each school.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and like I said, together, we accomplished that, and I consider it a blessing. I'm sure y'all do too.
Absolutely.
Some counties don't have that.
Yeah.
And some of the charter schools don't have that. So there becomes a time where you have to choose an alternative because the law says you will do it in some form or fashion.
Sheriff Harden, I reached out to you because one of the school board members had asked me to bring you in to do a presentation. I also reached out to the staff of all schools, and I provided each of the school board members with a packet of the staff that wanted to give input. A lot of them said, I just don't feel comfortable right now making giving my opinion because I don't know enough about the program. But then the others that did submit, and board, you will have that in your packet, they were either very, very much for it or very much against it. There's really no.
It's a very polarizing topic.
Yes.
And I can tell you in my line of work, with the people that I employ, they're human and they make errors. So it's not unheard of for an officer to be on a hospital detail, go to the restroom, and inadvertently leave their weapon laying on the sink in the public restroom. It has happened. It's happened in more than one office, not just mine. So you can imagine a civilian, someone that has recently began this, carrying a weapon, something comes up in their school day when they have to change out of clothes or whatever, depending on the employment of the person, where are you going to secure that weapon? And it's got to be secured in such a way that law says someone under the age of 16 cannot access it. Legally, it has to be stored with the ammunition in a separate location. So, I mean, there's all kinds of hurdles. And it would be easy to say, oh, well, we just can't do this. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of agencies do it, and they're successful in it. So I believe we can do it if y'all really want to do it. But it's going to take some commitment, and it's going to take some work, and it's going to take some money. The training can be done through my office. Right now, we're extremely shorthanded, as I am sure y'all are as well. So that will be a burden, but it can be done.
Sheriff Harden, I reached out to Broward County, which is where the shooting happened. I talked to their safety person yesterday, and he said something that really struck me. He said that their guardian program, they're not school employees. They are strictly there. They can't break up fights. They don't get involved in anything on campus except if there's an intruder. That's all they're required to do, and they're paid a separate salary just for that. But one thing he said that really caught my attention, and this is the county where this came from, was that their ratio of armed officers, guardians, whatever, was 1 to 1,000 students. And I thought, wow, we're well, below that. And that was the level that they deemed would provide
Yes, ma'am.
somewhat safe environment for their students. So that really made me feel better, that with the ratio that we have is, 1 to 400 in some cases, 1 to 500 or 600, so.
Well, to give you an idea on those ratios, and this is shocking to some people, we have 13,000 some odd residents in Glades County on a typical day. We have right now 2 officers for those 13 plus thousand people
On duty at any
on duty
time.
right now. That's how shorthanded we are. Normally we have 4 when we're fully staffed, but we're half of that right now.
I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but is part of that reasoning because of housing or is it just difficult to
I'm
find
just gonna
deputies?
call it the great resignation. This generation, for whatever
We know.
reason, where we had 1 or 2 jobs in our career, this generation is going to have 10 or 12 or more. So they jump from position to position. I'm certainly seeing it, I'm sure y'all are too.
We are.
Well, thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
Sharon.
all
Thank
your
you.
work.
There's a lot there to consider, and my phone, y'all, every one of you have my cell phone, please call me if you have any questions. Happy to do it one-on-one, I'm happy to come back and we'll hash this out. We could do this for hours, so, I mean, it's a very hot topic.
Sheriff, would you be willing to come back, like if we came back as a group and you just did a work study with all 5 of us?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Sheriff
Like I said,
Harden,
we're in this together.
I would just like to also say, we had a situation here, one day, a couple of weeks ago, and, I sent a text message to Sheriff Harden, and we looked up, it wasn't a second, and your men were extremely professional, they were on it, and so, and there was, I don't know if you called them from Hendry, Okeechobee, it looked like the cavalry was here, so we appreciate that, thank you so
Glad to hear
much.
that. They make me proud,
Yes, sir.
but I'm available to y'all, I'll answer anything I can, and like I said, if you wanna meet, we can do that.
Okay.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have one more question, something you said. What would the possibility be of our principals having direct radio contact with your office? I know in Hendry, we have these little, emergency buttons that we wear on us at all times that we can press that get to you all.
Our
Would that
handheld-
be a super expensive thing to get, just to get them radios that connected with you?
Our handheld radios are $5,000 apiece. So, I mean, if you consider that super expensive, it is pricey. But it can be done if that's what you desire. We would have to buy additional radios. Because of that cost, we only have 1 or 2 spares. Everything else is in use.
But they could just, there's an intruder on campus at Westlake.
Now, we could do the panic alarm, you know, every one of your teachers or principals could be armed with a panic alarm button. That would go straight to my dispatch, and that's where they're gonna be sent from anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, there's possibilities.
That is happening. That's gonna happen within the next month.
Okay.
Finally,
Good.
all-
Yeah, I remember, I thought you talked to us about those, yeah.
Well, that was.
I think that's probably the quickest route, because you get somebody that doesn't every day use the radio, that can be confusing too. And if one of my guys are on the radio, they're not gonna be able to get through. So I think the button is probably your better bet.
Well, high school got something over there, cause, they had matched the button, and I went to the room and knocked on the door, and I didn't see anybody, and did anybody come? And I wondered, what in the world is wrong with these people over here? But I didn't know, then I came back, and they said they were on something, they were, whatever you call that, they were on that, and nobody moved.
Oh, they were on lockdown the day. you started that.
Nobody
Yeah,
moved, and I thought,
Yeah.
wow, okay, it's working. But thank you, Sheriff.
I thank y'all very much for having me. Again, call me, we'll discuss it, or we can come back and do it in depth.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 4.2, report of the new school and location.
So, along with that discussion, we're in a contract with a group called Enfado. Enfado is the group we're working with to meet the requirements of Alyssa's Law. We were talking in Hendry County where you have something in place already. We actually, the Enfado actually is a product that is a web-based product, and so that we could ask our employees to put that alert on their phones. But we also know that there are some unions within the state that were against that because it's forcing staff to put things on their personal phone, and they didn't want to do that. And so Enfado actually got into the game but didn't really have the panic alarm button. So they were working with another company. They finally, we have been on the phone or on email both every week with this company trying to get all the glitches taken care of. The last glitch, I think, Sheriff Harden was.
He left.
The last glitch was the 911 call, where, because the fobs, when they push the button on the fobs, it actually texts 911. And there really wasn't a system that was in place in the sheriff's department to allow that to happen. They were working on that, and I think that's all straightened out now. So we're actually hoping the week after spring break, that when you have a faculty meeting, we can start rolling those things out for the staff. Okay. All right, so, Brad, need to make sure I'm doing this right.
You're still casting, just pull up what you need to.
Oh. Find it again.
It's at the bottom on the tab.
Oh, all right, I just went, found it again. Okay, so, we're talking about proposed site to Moorhaven Elementary School, the new school. Now, if you remember, I talked to you a couple weeks ago about the new Moorhaven school, that we had a group that came from the state or from around the state, and they deemed that our elementary school was critical need, which allows us to enter in with the DOE about the possibility of getting special facilities funding to replace the elementary school. When the group from the state came down, our initial proposal to them would be that we could either raise the school, means tear it down and build where it is. We also knew we had property on the baseball field, which is across the street from there. Later on, we found out we had other properties, and so I kind of want to go over our thinking and kind of how we have come about some decisions. How do I do this now? So this is just a little bit about, this is a portion of the presentation that I made to DOE. It just talks about our students, where we are. It talks about, in the bottom, it talks about our tax rolls, which is kind of important. We generate about, for this year, about $1.2 million for capital outlay. And capital outlay money goes for all of our maintenance things, all the things we need to purchase. It also includes paying our maintenance people and stuff like that. So usually, once we're done paying everybody, we've got around $750,000 that we spend on, like, buying a new bus. A new bus is $140,000. Buying any kind of new equipment, anything that needs to be repaired. If you have an air conditioner that goes out, just the air conditioner itself is about $6,000. All those things tend to add up after a while. Okay. What am I doing wrong here? Top left-hand corner? Right here? Okay, so the construction project. Now I can do it, all right. I don't do too many PowerPoint presentations. So the project really was to raise and replace the elementary school. As you can see, the Moorhaven Elementary, it serves about 376 students as of that time, back in December. This is actually what the school looks like on a map. You can see on the far left is the high school, and you have the cafeteria, staff parking, the school itself, and you have building 9 and 10. And below the elementary school, there are also portables. So when we were talking about replacing the elementary school, when we had other people that came from the state, what they looked at as what really needed to be replaced. And they felt as though the portables that were there, that have been around for well past their life, they could be included in being demolished, and by doing that, it would add what they call student seats to the project. And the project money amount we're going to get, a lot of it's based on the amount of seats that we're going to be needing for our students. Also, building 9, which is right now where the pre-K students are, that was discussed as part of a renovation where we could renovate it for office staff, since right now in those portables, there are about 15 office staff workers that are in those portables. And so we would be able to also get funding from the state to renovate building 9 so we could use it for offices. And then building 10, which is the Ritchie building, we could keep. I actually had an architect that came by last week to take a look at it because we had some concerns about some cracking in the bricks to see if it was going to be stable enough for us to keep it. And he seems to think that it's it's good to go. So, building 9 and 10 would be kept. Moorhaven Elementary School would go away, and the cafeteria would go away along with the portables, okay? All right, so here are some of the current issues that the school has. Of course, I put instructional distractions. I'm an old principal. If you've ever been into Moorhaven Elementary School, you know that it was built in the 1960s, and in that time it was all peace, love. Let's all get in one big building. Actually, some of those architects, they didn't plan on having furniture. The kids were just going to lay on the floor, sit on the floor. Everyone's going to be in one big room. And it was peace, love. It was the 60s, the 60s and the 70s. And very quickly what happened is they started building false walls to separate those rooms. And that's how we came about what we have right now. Now, when they built the building as it was. The air conditioning system was set up for those big open rooms. And so when you started putting walls in, you couldn't put the walls all the way to the ceiling because that would obstruct the airflow in those rooms, and so you wouldn't get air conditioning in those rooms, or any kind of fresh air that was supposed to come either. So you have voids at the top of classrooms, and if you've ever taught or been in those schools, you know that you can hear everything that goes on in all the rooms next to you. So there's definitely distractions. There's increasing maintenance costs. We have lack of storage, there's plumbing and sewage. You can read all the different problems, and the people that came from the state, they recognize this too. That's why they found that the school was in critical need. So here was the first proposal, and that was to just to replace the current elementary school. You can see it right now. The current elementary school is on lots 87, 88, and a portion of 89. Lot 87, you can see, is about less than 3 acres. Lot 88 is just a little over 8 acres. And really, we're kind of 1 acre into 89. So what the first proposal would be just to tear it down and replace it where it is. So I kind of put out some pros and cons. The pros are you have current utilities already in place. You have sewer, water, power, and really no other properties will be disturbed. There are a lot of cons, though. Portables would need to be rented right now, and really people say, well, we did that at the high school. Well, the high school is a little different. We have little kids here, so when we rent these portables, they're going to have restrooms in many of them. Whereas when the high school did that, they brought in a big gang bathroom. So when I was looking at portable rental for a classroom is about $1,000 a month per rental. And we have about 24 classrooms, plus we need office spaces and other ancillary buildings as well. So, I don't know, about $30,000 a month for rentals for that. Before we put portables up, the sites must be in place. So they have to run sewer, they have to run water, have to run power to all those. We have to have security. Before, when the high school went up, it was before Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. So now, if we were to move into a portable city, we would have to have security, fencing, and cameras installed. There's going to be, I believe, there's a huge disruption in learning because you're moving into these other spaces. There's questions about where they're going to get breakfast and lunch. When the high school did it, they would walk over to the elementary for breakfast and lunch. We would have to put this portable city close enough so they could walk over to the high school, or else bring lunch and breakfast over to them. There would be concerns about bus and car drop-off and pickup. The costs associated with building the portable school would all come out of our special facilities funding. So the special facilities would give us this number. Let's say it's $24 million, and if our little portable city is going to, because we're talking 3 years now, if it's going to cost us, $1 million, $2 million to do this, that's $2 million less of a school that you're going to see with the new school. Of course, there's always been a lack in the current area of parking spaces, and there's also been a lack of play space. So proposal 2, which is the one we first talked to when the state came down, would be to build on the baseball field, which is, we actually own lots 85 and 86. So between the two of them, that's a total of 5 acres, which is actually less than the acres we have on the current property. there was a question mark that we could purchase lot 68, was where the grocery store used to be, and that could be done. Also, about possibly closing the road between the baseball field and the current cafeteria. So, pros and cons. Pros, it's an open area to build a school. There are near current utilities. Could possibly close the Avenue K to gain more property for recess and PE fields. No disruption of instruction because they would be building actually on a different site. The cons, you have limited space unless you purchase that property, and also unless Avenue K is closed. Purchasing the lot 68 would take money out of the new school. The baseball field would need to be replaced, but there would be money that would be included in special facilities for a baseball field replacement. There is a lift station that's on the property. It's kind of, there's a major lift station that's actually out in right center field of the baseball field. And so with that, we would have to build around that. And then I put continued traffic concerns, because there are traffic concerns right now when people are dropping off and picking up their kids at the elementary and the high school. We have parents that at times will just drop their kids off along the road instead of taking them to the drop off, and so there's a lot of traffic congestion in that area. Proposal 3, we actually own 4 lots just to the west of us, which includes the Challenger Fairgrounds. When we're looking at this, we're looking at about almost 12 acres of land. A lot of that is open. So the pros of that, there's about 12 acres to build the school. There's access for recess and PE fields. Very beneficial for traffic concerns. Special facilities money would be added to replace the current transportation facility that really could use replacement. And there's no any disruption of instruction. The cons is it's on the Challenger Fairgrounds and it may be moved to another location. We may be able to share, and I got questions on that too. Transportation facility would need to be replaced. And when I talked to the city council about this, they weren't very positive. I didn't feel very positive when I got out of the meeting. But about this proposal, what I had discussed is if you look where the number 118 is, right where the first one is, there's a tree line right there. And really, my first proposal was just to go up to the tree line and then still allow the other property to be used for the fair. And that kind of went like a lead balloon. And so I also talked about that once we knock down the cafeteria, that we might be willing to share that property, which is just on the other side of the rodeo ground, so they could use that as well. And there were some comments made that I'm not going to discuss, but that really wasn't a great idea either. Okay?
Who owns the property behind the Challenger
We do.
Fairgrounds? No, behind, up north of 125.
I'm not sure the individual's
It's
name.
Carl
Perry.
Perry.
Okay.
Yeah, they own that property right there.
And
But
who owns where the grounds are, the city?
the actual
Where
above
the-
118,
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't look on there, but I believe it's the
I
city.
think
Yeah.
it's the city.
So,
Okay.
and really, lot 118, the Challenger grounds, is owned by the school board. And I will tell you that we don't even have a lock that goes into that property. That property is locked up by someone else and it's only utilized for about a month a year. And I know that's a very important thing. I was told that I'm not from around here and I don't know how important Challenger is. And I was just throwing proposals out there. So this.
And Mr. Gressett,
I have a
just for the audience that's here, my understanding is those vehicles that are showed in lot 118, those
Yeah.
things you see by the tree line, those are over there right now. Those are
Yeah.
the vehicles that the carnival facilities use. Could you go back,
Yes,
please?
I can.
And we weren't even going to disrupt any of that. That's where the rides go on 118.
The rides go to the right of
And
that
we
tree
were
line.
we only need what is behind the tree line,
Yes.
125, 24, and we don't even really need anything on 118. Is that correct?
Yeah, we
Or
could,
what
we
is
could
the
do that.
total acreage without 118 minus 3? 11.9 minus 3.8.
Actually, we're at 2.88. We're looking at, probably 2 acres less than what we have right there.
Okay.
Because out of that lot, we're only gonna probably keep an acre. I do wanna show you that on Saturday actually Friday, which was when Challenger started and everything, I went into Challenger grounds and I took a picture, and I was standing actually at the pavilion, I guess it's over there or whatever, to show you the property that we were talking about utilizing. And if you can see, all the rides are in place right now. All the rides, they've already been set up. On the left side, you can see a camper, and then you see the palm tree line. That's the tree line that I was talking about. And you can see that none of the rides are even, nothing's even happening in that property other than parking vehicles on there right
I have a question.
now. Sure.
You said that if we raise the current building and build there,
Yeah.
we would have to buy or rent portables.
Yes.
And you said that would come out of our special facilities
Yes.
funding. Yet if we raise the bus barn, we would get additional special facilities funding to replace it.
Yes. Because we're doing a replacement on something. Yes. Just like with the baseball field, we would get some additional to rebuild that baseball field somewhere else. Okay. All right, so that's third proposal. And fourth one has become my favorite now, but may not be everybody's favorite. Actually, the school board, we own, actually south of Moorhaven Elementary, we own lots 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, which are the ball fields. And with there, if you can see, there is plenty of property. When we signed the agreement with the city commissioners, the agreement said that they were allowed to use those fields unless we were planning on building something. And so that's all part of the agreement. Pros for that, there's plenty of room to build the school, able to connect to current buildings, which we could actually, if you look, on lot 89, you can already see a portion of building 9 and 10, which is the Ritchie building. They're already in that lot. We could actually connect to those buildings. It's very beneficial to traffic concerns. And another thing is, we actually own some property to the right of 89, where that 8 and 7 is, or that little parking lot right there. So if we wanted to add a road into there, we could actually add a road into that area on the backside of those fields. No disruption of instruction. We would need to move the softball field, and the recreational fields would also need to be moved. I got a question mark for all of them, because there are other things too, like this is where we were talking about moving the softball field, but it could be a short term, because we could actually move the softball field, we own property which is south of the jail. We own that lot right there, and if you can see, what I did is I cut the softball field out and placed it in there, and it actually fits in there. Architect already went in there and said it would fit on that property. We could actually use that property for the softball field if we wanted to, or we could use that just kind of as a part-time thing, and then we could build the softball field across the street from the high school field, so you have both fields right next to each other.
Across the street from the baseball field?
Yeah, where the
Where the elementary
where the
is.
elementary is,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So, this is another idea. Now, it says Moorhaven Elementary School upside down, because what I did is I had 2 of these pictures, and I cut one of the pictures out, and I kind of showed you where the school actually, if it was the size it is right now, how much space it would take up. And you see from that right there, really, if we were to build right there, we wouldn't necessarily have to interrupt all the baseball fields. In fact, we could actually we could keep 2 of the baseball fields, and then the field that's a baseball field that we use, which is just south of the softball field, we could turn that into our softball field.
Can we
That'd be
go
very easy to do.
2 stories?
We're looking at two-story, yeah.
Can
We can do two-story, yeah,
we? Good.
which would take up even a smaller footprint.
That's what I was gonna say.
So, you know, with new schools too, you know, one of the things we have to look at, parking, we have to look at, busing, where the bus routes are gonna come and go. We have to look at, recess playgrounds for little kids and for bigger kids. We have to look at retention ponds now. When that was first built, that wasn't a requirement, you had to have retention ponds when the original building was. So we have to look at retention ponds. So there's a lot of things that we have to look at other than just plopping a school right there. So,
That way you would have your pre-K and up to like third grade downstairs and your
Yes.
other, yes.
yeah,
I think that it would work really good.
pre-K through 2 probably, and then 3 through 5 upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's what we're looking at right now. And the great thing is, actually I can say, first of all, the bad thing is that we have this property, but we're kind of lending it out to other places, and there's an expectation, and I understand the expectation that it's gonna be used by the city, okay? The great thing is, we do have property that we can build on, which a lot of places don't have that, you know, and they have to knock their school down and place it exactly where it is. I'll tell you another thing too, Al Brown, he isn't here, Al Brown's probably at the high school because I think the water main broke over there. But Al's gonna be here, because Al and I went to a Florida Educational Facilities meeting just last week, which was very interesting. But one of the speakers who was there was Violet Brown. If you remember Violet from DOE, she came and spoke to us. She is actually over special facilities. And I asked Violet, I said, you know, where are we with what's going on with the school? She said, I got you. That's what she said. I got you. We're gonna make sure that this is all going through well. I'm gonna help you every way I can. I said, well, you know, how many schools are up for special facilities? She said, well, there have been 2 other districts that have applied for special facilities. So that would make a total of 3 now. And she said, but the other 2, they didn't apply until late. So really the people, the subcommittee from special facilities that came and deemed our school of critical need, they haven't even come to their district yet. Once they come to their district and they're deemed a critical need, then those districts, they have to submit proposals for architects, just like we have already done, and they have to go, those have to be posted for at least a month, and just like ours are. In fact, we're planning on open ours. We have 3 bids that are in, we plan to open those probably today or tomorrow. But then you have to turn around and get it approved, and the architect has to submit the initial drawings to the state by June 1st. So we're looking at a great shot of us being the only ones up for special facilities funding coming up. So that's a great thing.
Will that be for the next legislative
The
session?
next legislative
Yes.
session.
Wow.
Yeah. So, which is an amazing thing. Also, if you remember when Governor DeSantis was here, he was talking about that right now they're flush with money. So.
So
Good
when do
thing.
we have to make this decision on the site? Like yesterday? Sounds like.
Probably within the month, yeah. Definitely within the month. Because once we name an architect, and we want to have that architect named by beginning of April, mid-April. So that gives that architect time to get the initial drawings completed and sent into the state by June 1st.
Mr. Grass,
Yeah.
where the old grocery store on there anywhere?
Not on this picture. I mean, you want
How
way
many
up there.
acres was it? I wanted to write that and miss that
the
too.
grocery store?
Mhm.
That was less than 2.
Okay.
It was 1.98. I didn't write it on there, but.
I don't,
Oh, I did, 1.9 acres. 1.8,
I don't know what their price is now, but 5 years ago, they wanted $1 million for that.
What
We
was it?
did, I did reach out, and we did do a letter to the realtor, which in turn, we said, you know, that what our price range approximately would be, you know, know, and it's gonna be around 344,000.
It's not a million.
That's good.
Oh my God,
But-
we need that property. I mean, we don't have enough parking places at the high school already, you know? I mean, it's just crazy.
But when we take the elementary down, we might.
Yeah.
Well, are
Yeah.
they really gonna, but
Parking.
they need play spaces, wouldn't they need a parking lot?
We have plenty of land, that's a good
I'd
thing.
like to buy it just because I don't want somebody else to come in and put some old ugly building there in front of our high school.
Well, we just need it, we need it.
And I'm gonna agree with you, I think we definitely need it, but I also feel as though our first priority after this is we really need to look at building a building out at Westglades.
Yes,
You're
we
right.
do.
You're right.
And right now, according to architects that were up at that meeting I went to, building costs have gone from about $160 per square foot to about $250 a square foot. So I kind of did the math with that on a 900 square foot room, which is what most of our rooms are right now. It costs about $225,000 per room. So if we want to build a 16 classroom building, which is I'm sure what they would love to have out there, we're looking probably around $4 million. And when you look at our capital outlay money, you see that we're only generating 1.2 million per year. And when we do this project, during the time this project is in place, 1.5 of our mill goes to the state. That's our portion that we pay back to the state through that special facility. So what we are trying to do, we being Al Brown and I, is we're trying to make sure we're taking care of all these things ahead of time. We're looking at purchasing AC units ahead of time before they blow out. There's several at Westglades that they're 15, 17 years old right now, and they're slowly going, but we have some money that we'll put aside that's coming out of ESSER 3 in order to replace those. We're looking at a new track at the high school, which I don't know when I'm talking about that. I'll come and talk to you later about that. Okay? All right, any questions?
Thank you, Brian.
Thank
you.
You've
Thank you
done
very
an
much.
awful lot
Good
of
job.
work on that, and I, for one, appreciate it.
Yes.
Same, thank you very much.
Now I gotta find. It's where?
And then go to the top left, your second tab, that's a little bit out on this. Next one over.
Oh, okay. But I need to get to.
Almost wanna go to the bathroom real quick, but
She could only be your
I need to get 80 rhymes thing here. Samantha, she sent that to me in an email. Okay.
Jenny, I think Dr. Daly's gonna say something before Ms. Rhymes goes, so we can call her.
okay.
All right, what did I?
All right, you just get away.
You know what to do?
I understand that, this,
you away.
Jenny.
I think that Dr. Daly wanted to say something real quick.
Oh, okay.
I think, that's what I've been,
I think we're right. You're right.
told in like 1 second ago.
Superintendent, board members, first of all, we want to thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to present to you. Since my arrival, we have been enthusiastically trying to improve our situations that provide an opportunity for our students to learn. But it would be remiss of me if I did not stand here and say and give A.D. Rhymes, which I have commonly given her that name, A.D. Rhymes, an acknowledgement of a job well done. We're very proud to have that kind of quality person in this position doing the job that she's done. You will see today things of the past and a glimpse of things in the future. The things in the past things that since her arrival in August, since my arrival in August, that she has found and she has shared with us. And those things will be presented in an era of the possibility of Title IX violations, the possibility of things that miraculously have just disappeared. We don't know where they are, so please don't ask me because I don't know. We have gone through locker rooms and looked and searched. She has gone through records and searched. But what you will see today is the culmination of her efforts in trying to provide you with where we are and where we need to go. I think the bottom line is that we need your help. and so she has pieced together this format that I think that you will enjoy. As her principal, and as your principal, I'm very, very pleased now to present A.D. Rhymes, Athletic Director Rhymes, that she will provide for your viewing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so, we're gonna start with like some major, and basically we're kind of coming to you guys today because we're kind of in a financial issue between paying officials, our transportation bills, and just some unpaid bills that we kind of got, were inherited, and, just kind of to keep you guys informed of where we're at, how we plan on moving forward to make sure we can give, the students the best opportunities that they can have. If you look, we have unpaid bills from 2020, and I'll go through each one of those bills. We have possible Title IX violation. That's when you spend more money on boys than you do girls, especially when you do it out of your athletic general fund and not the individual sports. We have improper entry of data on our home campus, which I have a meeting at 11 where the lady's gonna come in and hopefully train me and try to go back and fix some of these things. We also have issues with how things were invoiced. So we have some BS invoices, which is excessive ordering of coaches' clothing. Then those things were actually shipped to personal homes, but billed to the school. And I provided you guys with those BSN bills. Also, the improper inventory of items in storage leading to missing or destroyed equipment. So right now, we're missing a timing equipment for track. Those range from anywhere to $800 to $1,800, it's according to which one we get. The goalpost guards were not properly stored, so again, those have to be replaced. We're missing iPads, which were used for filming. We've searched the campus, we don't know where they are. I actually even put a student on it because Damari was actually the person that helped and did the filming. He looked everywhere for him, he was unable to find them, and also the tripod that was along with him. We have the $1,700 packing slip and the invoice, but we are actually unable to track down that tripod. And these are all things that we now have to replace, because we do need them in order to film the students and place their stuff on huddle. Here's the unequitable spending. If you look at attachment A and B in there, you're gonna see the athletic department. That is our entire information for 2 years. So I've highlighted where you can see the spending. If you look in August, starting in 20 to 2021, there was $12,974 out of the athletic fund spent on just boys. No money was spent on girls at all out of the fund. When I say both, I mean it could be a sport like cross country. It could have been something that, like boy and girls soccer, like something like new nets that they both would have utilized. No money was spent on both there. And also in there, you'll see that football actually gets a flat busing rate that is not offered to anyone else. So while you have girls' sports paying $2,600 to be transported, you're only charging boys $200. So which is another issue. Yeah, I know everybody says, huh, when I say that one. If you look at attachment B, you'll actually see the invoice that was sent to the high school, and it clearly says season flat rate. So they're offered a $200 rate, while our other groups are not actually given that choice. And I'll actually go through the transportation costs for the other groups.
Is that the whole season or each trip?
That is a whole season. They only pay $200. So girls softball, you'll see in a minute, paid $2,200. Girls volleyball paid $1,600. Some people were not billed at all. Why are you looking at me like that, Miss Rachel?
Well, I'm just looking.
And then boys, just the boy football, I don't know, I even had questioned this earlier when I had talked to Mr. Gregson, I was like, why are they the only ones to get this $200 rate? And it was never really explained of why that was the case. And I would love to have the answer for you, but I do not know. I just know that girls are paying more money for transportation than boys at this time. The next one is the BSN invoices. I gave you every single copy of every single invoice. Every single one of those purchases was totaled $1,763. Those were all things that were sent to personal homes that were ordered through school money or student money. And then also we have an improper turn-in of funds, and I've actually talked to the bookkeeper. So we ordered $816 worth of hats. But the money was never turned in for $816 worth of sales. So obviously if your invoice was $816, your sales should have went over that because it would have been considered a fundraiser. Now could have money been turned in improperly, and I think that's probably what they did. They turned it in with Gates. But again, like for bookkeeping purposes, and if we get audited, it has to be turned in as a fundraiser, and it has to be separated from our concessions and our gate. And I actually gave you a copy of those BSN invoices, which shows you all of the items, and that's attachment D, all of the items that were ordered and where they went. And you can look back through there. That invoice is 4 pages. One is 4 pages. It's all clothing. The next one, there's one of 1 page. Again, it's another set of clothing. There's another one that's another set of clothing. There's multiple pages there, and you guys can kind of go through there and look at that. For your. All right, so here's our financial report. This is actually where we are right now, and this is kind of where I was talking about that transportation. The athletic department, we started with $8,000. We currently have $18,000. So we're moving forward. That has a lot to do with the fact that we wouldn't let them buy anything until we fixed some of the bills that we had. Softball currently, they started out with $1,500. They moved to $6,792. But here's that transportation. They got charged $2,200. Their officials cost them $2,431. So in order for the girls softball team to have a season, they spend about $5,000 to $6,000 in transportation and officials. That's no help from the school district at all. So they get no assistance. They have to raise, not including buying them uniforms or anything. That's $6,000 just to make their season happen, to get them to the game and to have a referee at times. Boys baseball is at $1,894. They're still going, and their transportation from last year, so they're still trying to earn money. Like we just had a game last night, and I think they made like $600-700. So their total should be pretty good. Their transportation, they were also billed at $1,642, and their officials were $1,970 for this year, and that actually has already been paid. Track is not billed for transportation. And they currently have $1,583, and I know we had a lot of questions about the track. And just to clarify, we do not have to have a synthetic track. It does not have to be 8 lanes, and it does not have to be synthetic. That is a preference if we want to have a regional or a district meet. Asphalt is fine for regular meets or invitationals. Volleyball, they were at $2,959. They are at $4,482, and they were also billed transportation. Girls soccer, they were not billed, and neither was boys soccer. Boys and girls basketball weren't billed, and you can kind of see those totals there. The major thing is, if boys basketball, we started off with $287, and when we got our bill, they bill theirs together. So if you see that $4,952 and that $2,600, those are actually together. So I think our bill was like right around $7,000. We had to pay that before the season started. So these bills were due before. So our total in the beginning of the year, they had $800, or about $900, but we had a $7,000 bill. Therein lies the problem of, we started a season off with $287 with a $7,000 bill. We ended the season with about $2,300. It was a lot of work. I can't really praise Mr. Baker enough for the fact that he did multiple cooking, at the concession stand. They sold Indian tacos, they did spaghetti dinners to try to help offset that cost. They weren't billed for transportation last year, and we haven't got transportation bills on any of these as of right now. So even though volleyball has ended, we still don't have a volleyball transportation fee. So, and that's kind of one of the things, we're really asking for help on that transportation aspect. It's really, really killing us. Not a lot, I mean, the officials are enough, but then when you add that transportation on there, it really just, it makes it hard to buy the equipment that's needed, the uniforms that are needed, or anything along those lines. All right, back to that track, that has been, sorry, Mr. Aggressive, probably a pain. The resurfacing. There was a common misconception it had to be rubberized. 8-lane track with a synthetic surface is strongly recommended for all Florida high school state championship series. That means at the end. So there's districts, regionals, and we will most likely never host a district and regional because they've added things like javelin and pole vault, the pole vault stuff, and we don't have those systems. We don't have pole vaulters, so I don't see the purpose of buying a $15,000 pole vaulting system to host a district meet where you're not going to offset that cost. The track timing system, we did find one piece of the track timing system. It was on the floor in the equipment room, but none of the clickers to that system. So it's basically needs to be repurchased. The high jump mat is no longer of adequate size. It's actually too small for regulation, and it's going to cost us about $8,000 to fix. The starting blocks were not stored correctly. They're metal, so they were left outside, and they're about $200 a piece. We've already ordered them. The athletic department is paying for the $1,800 blocks for the students. We've also ordered them new uniforms, and we've had to order them tents because it's required that when they go off, they travel with shade because of the heat factor in Florida. All right, see if I have any questions on that one. I'm going like kind of fast. Do you have any questions so far?
Yeah,
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I was kidding when I said that. Okay.
No, the mat,
Yes,
you said, is it 8,000 to replace it, or?
it's $8,000 for a brand new system.
Okay, all right,
That's a brand new, like,
okay,
Florida high school standard. The one that we have is very small,
Okay.
so it looks more like it could possibly be the measurements of a middle school and not, so if we get into, you know, you have some kids that will jump up in like the 6 feet range, then you have to provide that larger space.
okay.
It's kind of a very small mat, so.
Such a fanatic.
Okay, the facilities and equipment for football, we did order new uniforms that was paid for by US Sugar. Again, the filming equipment is a huge problem. So a lot of these kids, you know, they have the aspiration of being Division I athletes. Well, we can't film them and we can't upload them because we don't have the proper equipment to do so. We also have an unpaid bill with Huddle that was floated. There's a PO signed, so it's actually an open PO. It was signed by Ms. Perez, and it was signed in, I want to say, August with a post-it note that said pay in spring, but it never was paid. I left it unpaid because I was saying, hey, we need help paying some of these things because of the simple fact we're already behind on a lot of things that we have to fix, and we keep getting these just different bills thrown at us. So we really do need to fix the filming aspect so we can get these kids the exposure that they're looking for. We had to order a new scoreboard system. Undoubtedly, when I talked to Al, the scoreboard system at the football field had been blinking for multiple years. So we went ahead and fixed it. It cost us about $2,500 to actually fix that system, and it is fixed and working. Of course, when it rains, it pours. We had to buy a new refrigerator because the refrigerator broke inside the concession stand. We have a paint system. We're not really sure what's wrong with the paint system. It's actually one of the really expensive ones. So I'm gonna get maintenance to look at that and see if it's just because it's never been cleaned. Because a lot of times it'll get really gunky, or it could be an electrical problem. And then of course the new Gold Coast pads. So it's gonna be about $19,000 for football. A lot of those things, the uniforms obviously has been taken care of, but the film equipment is kind of one of those major things that
So-
we would.
The uniforms are paid for
Yes,
by US Sugar.
yes ma'am. I don't have that.
So you could subtract that
Yeah, you
and
actually could
say
go take it, so really, we
5,200.
need about 5,200, we have to
Gotcha.
fix the film equipment and then those goalpost pads.
So-
They're actually, that one was not too bad, but obviously because they were getting about $15,000 spent on them a year, so theirs is looking good. Track is definitely, I would have to say, one of the ones that needs the most attention at this time. They require a lot of items to kind of get them up to standard of where they need to be. Softball, again, theirs have been really good. They needed their speakers are older. I talked to Mr. Gressel about fixing parts of their backstop, but it sounds like he might be just tearing down the whole softball field, so don't fix it now.
You're gonna be the bad guy for a while.
She also needs new lining equipment because they're sharing lining equipment between baseball and softball. So there's one lining set and they kind of just transport it back and forth, so we wanna make that a little bit better for them. They, again, like the technology aspect, we should all be digital, so everything that we do, including our schedules, stats for students, it's all done on Mac prep, so we need iPads for the athletic department for filming and also to keep up with the stats and the scheduling. Volleyball, I don't know if anybody's ever been in the gym and how terrible the speaker system is. So I don't know if there is a way we could get someone in there to figure out how can we utilize it, because I mean, even for homecoming this year, when it like flooded, they're like, oh, well, let's go into the gym. Well, you can't go into the gym because you can't hear in the gym. It's terrible. It's very similar to what they had going on at the Challenger grounds at the show and sale. Like you can't hear, it's bouncing everywhere, so if we could possibly figure out a way to get that fixed or order like a floor system. The floors need to be finished, but I heard that was already in the process, that they were gonna be redoing our floors for the gym over Christmas, or not over Christmas, over spring break. We need a storage part for the chairs. So we have these really nice chairs, and that's another huge problem. We have really nice things, but they don't have really good ways to store them. So things are just thrown and shoved instead of being stacked and organized. So we can save a lot of money if we start ordering things like the blocks. There's a track blocks, you can put track blocks on a storage system, then we have these things being stored properly and we won't be losing so much money. I talked to Mr. Coates about why they don't utilize that practice field where the jail is, where he's gonna put the softball field now, so not worried about that anymore. I'm just aggravating you. So it needs to be disc and planted because there's a safety concern. I guess there's rocks and metal objects inside of it. So we cannot utilize the practice field that you fenced because of the simple fact there's actual glass, metal, rocks. I think even one kid got cut, I do believe. I don't remember what student it was. It was a couple of years, like 2 or 3. When they
A lot of
fixed
money.
That, we put a lot of money in that. When that initially was set up, when they said, you can't have bonfires anymore, remember that's
Right.
where we used to have our bonfires.
Yes, ma'am.
That was supposedly all disc out,
It was.
all the dirt removed, new dirt put in, grass planted.
Yep.
Now, that's been a long time ago, cause it was
I don't
when
even remember the bonfire, so I'm a little younger.
No, it was when we
You don't
built,
remember bonfires?
I do.
it was when the high school was built. It wasn't that long ago.
No, but we I guess that like 2 or 3 years ago, they did have a student actually get cut.
Okay, so
I
I
mean,
don't know how that happened unless people had partied out there and left
And
their
it's
broken
fenced.
beer bottles or whatever,
Yeah.
because it was cleaned up, I'm telling you it was.
And a sprinkler system underneath it.
I'm sorry?
There's a sprinkler
Yeah,
system underneath
that was around the time of the new high
There was a
school.
lot of money put into
Yeah,
that.
so I don't know.
Yeah,
what
so
happened
I mean,
either.
I do know, and I mean, I don't know if that's something that the maintenance wants to look into of what could possibly be the problem, but they would like to be able to utilize that field to keep them off the football field, but at this point, we can't keep them off the football field because it's not safe for them to go there. That's kind of where we're at on that one. All right, what is our plan to kind of move forward from where we are now to where we want to be? We do have an athletic handbook, so we are going to start implementing, and it's all the way at the back. So if you guys want to take a look at anything inside the athletic handbook, it's multiple pages. The guy from Riverdale actually helped us send his, and we kind of utilized his to help us build one. And I also think that as a school board, you should probably ask, from my experience of what I have found in here, you guys probably need to be far more informed about those internal accounts. I think that as a board, you should probably ask for a yearly report of all athletics internal accounts. Because I think a lot of the things y'all would have been able to notice and see if you actually were printed out and handed them. Because a lot of student money was wasted and it wasn't utilized properly, which is unfair to the students. So my suggestion to you would be that you do ask that once a year that you get those reports and that they're going through.
Samantha, we have done that for the last 20 years. I do the same thing that you're telling me right now. We even set up a protocol. You know, there was supposed to be 3 pieces of paper that changed hands and come back to.
No, yeah, so what you have is like, I mean, it's not just like 1 or 2 pages, like the one document I gave you just for the athletic department is 16 pages of items that have been bought and money that has came through there. I mean, you're not talking about $100, $200, $300, you're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars that needs to be accounted for.
I know.
Not just by one individual. And I've even expressed that. There's no check system, really. There was no check system in place, and y'all really need to figure out, that's a lot of cash for people to be in charge of, and especially when it starts affecting people's kids. So just, and you have every single internal account from athletics, what has been bought and what has been turned in.
So at this point, and from this point forward, no coach should be able to order anything without your signature.
Yes, nobody
They cannot
purchases
go
anything at all.
directly to the bookkeeper. They-
That's what I was gonna
And
say.
Dr.
The
Davies.
principal as well.
Okay, and if they
Well, no.
do, then they pay for it themselves.
Yeah, and you have a huge conflict of interest too when you have a coach that's your athletic director. I'm not a coach. So you get what I'm saying? Like, so if I'm a coach and I'm coaching softball and I know I've got $18,000 and I can do whatever I want. I can sign whatever bill I want. Just say, oh, hey, I need this. So it's definitely a kind of a conflict of interest to be a coach and be your athletic director. 'Cause
I'm sorry, but at my school, it comes through me.
it goes, he signs ours now.
Especially if it's a large,
For sure.
I mean, I've never had a problem with my accounts. Everything goes through me, especially certain amounts. I mean, that the director comes through me. If they do something like that, you're paying for it yourself.
So like nothing now gets ordered without our principal's signature. Nothing gets ordered at all. Right now, you can see we have plenty of money because we've not done a lot of ordering. We're just trying to kind of move forward and figure out what we need the most and what kind of things that we can do to make it a little bit better. The gym, we are going to come up with some type of storage system and inventory system. That's another thing, you have a huge turnover rate for being an athletic director, so when I came in, I didn't know what we have. There's no inventory. I didn't even know how many iPads, we had to go look up. Like, we're going to try to find what we're supposed to have, because there's actually no document that says, what does Moorhaven Junior Senior High School Athletics own? There's not anything. So we're gonna come up with some sort of system, we're gonna be using, we gotta figure that out. I was actually gonna get with Caleb, because I was thinking about doing QR codes on boxes and inventorying them that way, inside.
Tablets for you, they're not iPads, but I've got 3 tablets.
Yeah.
that I
So
actually
just
use.
some way, that way if I decide next year I don't wanna do this again, that you guys have the inventory and it can change hands properly. Because you're losing a lot of money because there's no accountability of what we have. And then when the next person comes in, nothing's really passed down. And there should be a process that this is stored somewhere so that if I quit tomorrow, that somebody can step right in. So that's another huge problem.
We need an extended year contract for our AD.
I did work on something like that, and I'm trying to create an inventory system, because there is no inventory system.
There's no
When I started
inventory
here-
yet.
When I started here,
Fred,
I
step up.
couldn't really get an account of who had, I couldn't get an account of who had how many Chromebooks or what equipment stored in which classrooms. So I've started with Excel sheets where I've got all the rooms' names, I've got clubs' names, what they have, so when I come in, if I touch it, I inventory it. So that way, later on, I'm like, well, who had this? Well, I pulled the sheet, so-and-so had this camera. And right now, since I started, no one's like, well, here's our current inventory, this is what we, there's none of that. It's just,
I know.
free for all, you make up your own inventory and you go with it. So I'm trying to create something, we created a shared drive, a district drive that.
Procedures now.
You already know, basically we bought Destiny, but we bought Resource Manager, which is now gonna transport all those Chromebook tallying,
So I can
cameras, iPads, that's all gonna be inventoried across the district, as a district-wide, not by 3 individual schools, so that we can see that inventory across the thing, we can check it in and out every year and see who has what and track it all. So we know where all that material is. That's been purchased, it's in the process of being set up right now. We have some,
Yeah.
we gotta bring in,
Homegrown.
it's a lot of stuff to bring into the system because none of it is in there. And it's all on homegrown Excel sheets and things like that, so there's some transportation of bringing that inventory in. Now track, jump pads are not gonna be in there, of course. That's gonna be more like in the Skyward inventory system or something like that. This is more like for the Chromebooks, checking in and out to students, or checking out to a club president, cameras for that club or something like that. Those kinds of things could be inventoried through the Resource Manager. Major purchases like the jump pit or something like that could be inventoried through the Skyward system because that's more of a capital tracking system.
Okay.
The athletic department actually had more money than what, I'm not gonna say it hurt us, but a lot of money got spent throughout all of the teams whenever we went from that bright yellow to metallic gold.
Yeah,
Everybody
that was,
needed new.
I wanna say that happened like probably maybe 15 years ago.
No.
No?
No, 6 years, 6
6
years,
years?
metallic, yes,
Metallic?
yes.
You know,
I'm gonna go, well, it looks better, so I mean, I'm just gonna go there.
But-
Historically, the athletic department usually is the department that has more money because the football that generates a lot of money. I think what I really like for you all to see is that A.D. Ryan's has established a process document now that will address all of these areas, and that we're now moving forward with this process document that will satisfy. None of this will happen again, I assure you.
Yeah, I just think
Well-
we need to be more accountable with our spending and also like how we're keeping up with stuff, because a really weird thing was, we have a gym, in the gym, we have a scoreboard system. The system is about $1,500, and ours was broke, so I was fixing to have to buy a new one. Well then, for some really odd reason, Caleb brought me a new one, he's like, hey, I found this upstairs in a cabinet. So I didn't even know it was on campus.
Yeah.
Like,
You know, and I see Dawn standing behind you, and I know she's probably wanting to comment, but as a superintendent of schools and the school board, we have a fiduciary responsibility to every taxpayer in this county, but more importantly, to every student that walks the halls of our schools. And this is disgraceful. And I am appalled.
yeah, so we have to be better with the money that we spend and making sure we know where everything's at. Again, because you do have a turnover rate. We need to have a set standard where this stuff can be found. That way, if you do leave, it doesn't hurt the students. Like, they're not gonna miss a beat. It's gonna continue going forward. So we are gonna come up with some sort of storage system. We're also need to implement a mandatory meeting process like they do for Pelagian livestock. If these parents don't come to this mandatory meeting in August and then one in January, then their kid can't participate in sports. And the reason for that is because a lot of important information needs to be handed to the parents. It's very hard sometimes to get them to come up to the school. Sometimes it'll just be the kid that comes to the meeting, and we have to set up a little bit better of a procedure to make sure we're reaching out to the parents and keeping them as informed as possible about their child. So the handbook that you were handed, if you guys just wanna look at that and let me know, you can just shoot me an email if there's anything. Certain things that we didn't have, that we had to implement are like the cold tub immersion, when you place kids in ice because they're overheated. There was just a lot of different little policies that we didn't have in place, that we're gonna look into, trying to make sure we have that ready for next year, and also a vaping policy, because that seems to be a huge problem. At the high school, we're gonna go with like a 1-2. First time, you're gonna be suspended from a game. Second time, you're gonna be removed from the team, because if I can't trust you in the hallways of our own school, I can't trust you to go to somebody else's school. Somebody, I think Miss Drake sent me an email this weekend about the new football, urban versus suburban. So Florida High School did actually approve it. Districts and classes, they're gonna be announced at the end of this month. They actually just released it yesterday afternoon. I have not had time to go through it, I will be honest. Metro's gonna be 4A's, or Metro is going to be Miami-Dade, Jacksonville in that area, we are gonna be suburban, which is a really, I know a lot of people debated if it was a good thing or if it's a bad thing. The best way I can explain to you, Metro is going to be, I don't know if anyone knows the Champagnat, the one that we always end up with every time at the end, they would no longer ever face Moorhaven. They have been taken out. They would be a suburban, or they would be a metro, we would be a suburban. Basically, 6 school districts were removed from and placed into metro. Because if you look at the bottom, the combination of having a bigger pool of student athletes to draw from, coupled with the Open Enrollment Act, has allowed the metro schools to dominate. So in the past 10 years, metro areas have won 89% of state football championships. So Miami, Hillsborough, any large area, there are 6 different school districts that got placed into one thing against each other. Certain schools kind of got a really bad deal on that because it's like Blades Day, they're in Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County was one of them that was removed and placed into metro. So even though they're a small school, they are still metro because of their county. You can kind of ask, you can appeal it if you don't want to be placed in these. For us, it doesn't look very bad at all. So we are going to be suburban.
And enrollment's
anybody-
9 through 12. They count your enrollment as 9 through 12.
Yeah,
not
enrollment
6
is
through
9 through 12. Your enrollment it varies on how it's counted. Sometimes on certain things it is 6 through 12 because we are a 6 through 12 school. But for that, we will be 9-12. We are gonna be, we'll be a 1A suburban. I wanna say like John Carroll, there was a list, I can send it out. I have to go through it though, and, it just came out yesterday and I just haven't looked at it, I'll be honest. So anybody have any questions? Okay.
Sorry, you used to do it to me, remember?
Yeah.
So, what is our status with the Florida High School Athletic Association right now?
We're in good standings with them right now. I have a meeting at 11 o'clock with a lady on self-reporting, so we've already self-reported, and we're trying to finish that up, but we also have another issue that was just sent to us, from the same lady, so she's gonna kind of walk me through a lot of it, because like I told her, because she was like, oh, you didn't do this, there's a lot of things that I didn't do right when we were doing the self-reporting. That's my fault, and I told her, I said, I'm not trained on it, so she's calling and she's gonna walk me through all the little errors I made, and then also through the next issue that we have. So, I mean, we're doing really good, and I think we made a good decision by reaching out and asking for help, because we did need help. And I'll tell you right now, I do things wrong all the time, and I'll call and say, I think I did this wrong, not that I'm doing it intentionally, it's just because I've never been trained. So I got handed a Florida High School Athletic Association home campus email, but then I had to like learn how to use it myself. I had to learn how to roster the kids and implement the data and put it in. There's a training like in May or June that I'm gonna go to kind of really get a better understanding of what I'm actually supposed to be doing. So I'll be honest, like this knowledge sake, really just kind of winging it.
So when football season starts, are we back again?
We're back, yeah, everything
Okay.
will be back. We'll pay the $250 to re-enter into state series. So, I mean, everything's good. Justin Harrison's been really helpful in helping. And I can also, any kind of question that y'all have, like if you're wanting to know, I'll actually go and email him today and say, hey, are we good? Because me telling you that, me thinking, yes, we are, but just.
But we did everything that we need
I'm
to
trying to do
do.
everything that I'm supposed to do to make sure, and if I don't know, I do try to ask, because, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of knowledge about it, I've never done anything like that before. I'm just trying to kind of self-teach myself and do the best I can. Am I gonna make mistakes? For sure. Have I made a lot? Absolutely.
We've also utilized the services of David LaRosa, who is the Lee County Athletic Director, who's come over and brought over, you heard Ms. Ryan talk about the coach of Riverdale, that he is kind of a mentor person, so we put that in place. So David has been extremely helpful with our school district in providing, and that called the charge us a dime, he just comes over to help.
Mhm.
And so more members need to understand, we've been very fortunate to establish that kind of relationship.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've had to use a lot of people for help. David coming over, Justin Harrison from Florida High School Athletic, I asked him a lot of questions, and he's very helpful with getting back and trying to give us answers. I actually have to say, they're pretty good about responding when you have a question, because, I mean, I've had a lot of questions, I've had to deal with a lot of little different things that I didn't know.
Well, I think you're doing a great job, and I appreciate you
I do
very
too.
much. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, that when we find out why the transportation billing is not equitable, I'd like to hear more on that.
Me too.
It's crazy that the football, which has the biggest gate, pays nothing for transportation. I mean, so that needs to be
I
fixed.
think that's the reason. I think that's, you just.
Well, I mean,
I think that's been
in
the
the
reasoning.
past, and I don't know, I think maybe in the past, those gates were able to pay for the amount, but people don't realize the helmet reconditioning takes a majority of their gate. Helmet reconditioning is like anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000. That's a lot of money. Then you add Huddle on top of that, which is their filming system, you're up to about $9,000.
And so the huddle is an annual thing? Okay.
So we're behind from the previous bill that was left in 2020.
We've also established a process at the gates, when people come in and pay, there was an issue, a serious issue, that we weren't sure how much money was coming through the gates. So, now when your deputy comes up and says, I've never been a part of counting the money, that's been changed. So that process is in place with AD and the deputy, they count it, and so that's another thing. So there are a series of things that we have corrected, but it was up to us to report it to you so you'd be aware of it.
Okay.
Do you, whenever they come through and they pay, how are you doing it now? I was
So
gonna say,
at the gates, which is pretty much the system they had in place, just a couple sports didn't really fall with the same, it was a little sporadic. So say football, they would have a concession and a gate box turned in, and we do a ticket system. Every ticket you sell, you have your starting number, you have your ending number. You know, I sold 33 tickets at $5, this is how much money should get turned in. The problem was that sometimes when money would be turned in the past, they would be together. So it would just be gate/concession, but it was only for some sports. So it's kind of all over the place. Sometimes it would be gate concession, sometimes it would just be game on 10-20, here's the box.
maybe you can print something that they'll have a little
We
thing.
do, yeah, so they have that, I just think it was the way that it was kind of being turned in. It does take a little bit more work to turn 2 boxes in and keep them separated, but we do gate concession, every sport does gate concession. You have a gate box, you have a concession box. So every time there's a game, there'll be 2 deposits, one from their gate and one from their concessions.
So I wanna say, and I've told you this privately, but I wanna say it publicly, that I appreciate everything you've done. You've done a great job.
Thanks.
You've taken control and you're learning, and that's awesome. You walked me through adding Max Preps as an app on my phone, but I am really old-fashioned. Is there any way we can get a printed list of athletic schedules?
I really wish you guys would, yes, we can do printed ones, we just use the digital one because it's just so much faster. And I know a lot of people, I don't necessarily have a problem with the high schoolers, they're
Yeah,
used to
they're pretty
digital,
young and
but
savvy.
yeah, I can definitely,
But I like to have a piece of paper that says on Friday,
Yes.
you know, October 20th, there's a football game at 7 o'clock.
everything.
Well, if you just put something on the site that says, you know, whatever season we're in,
Yeah, and,
these are the
we
games,
will,
and then we can,
and that's one thing I
You can
started
screenshot
for
it.
next year, I think, I was gonna share it with Mr. Coates, and I haven't yet, but we're gonna do a calendar, kinda like how y'all do a
That's
school
what I was gonna say.
calendar. We're gonna do just an athletic calendar for monthly,
Perfect.
not by individual sports, but by the month. So we'll have, like, August I already have done, so in August I have volleyball games already scheduled, and we already have football for middle school and varsity, so we already have like August, September, but Mr. Coates and I are now working on soccer, so I'll be able to actually share that, and we'll print that out, because I think me just having to do one printout versus having to do every sport would save us some time. So we can
Okay.
just do like an August calendar and then a September calendar. and
That
put that in
works
the-
and just put it on our website that goes on Facebook and everybody can, parents can screenshot it.
I know.
So-
I'm like you, I have to have it like this.
Yeah, I forget to look at that max
I know,
prep thing,
but
and I
we
had
will make sure
set
that all
it
of
to
you get
alert me,
what
and
I-
that was
that's what
driving me
I'm doing.
nuts.
So when she gives it to me, all I have to do is just say, make sure the board has copies
Yeah.
of this, and that's easy to do, we can take care of that.
So,
Do you have any questions?
I have one more thing. I have one more thing. Money.
Lots of money. I need lots of money.
Okay. I appreciate you sharing all this. Are you asking us to help you
Yes.
with some money?
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah, you
it
see.
seems to me,
Yeah, we
It-
definitely, the transportation cost, and it's only gonna get worse with the
Dawn, do you
rate-
want to speak to that?
rate
well,
increase.
can I finish what I was gonna say?
You're gonna give
It
us
seemed,
$1,000,000, aren't you?
it seems to me that many years ago, and you've got to remember, I'm old and I've been in this district, you were a kid when I was principal, okay? But it seems to me that at some point in time, the district paid for the transportation.
They did district games. They pay for our district games, but now I don't believe that they're paying for anything. 'Cause you have
Okay,
to realize
that's what I'm
districts-
thinking, we need to discuss that,
Or even if it's like a 50-50 split, y'all, we have 8 away games, y'all pay for 4, we pay for 4. But like us getting the whole bill and then only some of them getting the whole bill.
Well, it should be done in the hard cost. You own those buses. It takes so much money to turn the lights on in this district every day, which should be figured as a hard cost, no matter what. They cost the same. So individually billing different people in the athletics that are competing in athletics, this one for this, 1,200 for this, I mean, come on. What are you doing, trying to offset fuel some? Because you don't need any money for that bus.
We have to pay the
The
driver.
drivers. We pay the drivers their hourly rate.
Surely somebody needs to think about that in the billing process and the budgeting process.
Yeah.
Well, and we
Because
need
the
to,
school can't operate, the school doesn't operate without sports.
but you gotta remember, we also have field trips. And traditionally, the group going on the field trip has paid for the bus. A mileage, I believe, for the bus and the driver.
Yes.
So, but George is right,
You're
schools
trying to
don't,
profit off
we
the group.
have
You
to
don't
have
to-
athletics. And if we can pay for the transportation for the athletes, I think we should, that's.
I actually, in speaking with Ms. Rhymes and Ms. Martin yesterday, what I said is, can't we just clear it and say, it's done, for here forward, I mean, I don't wanna charge, that's not, and, then we came up with, well, what about these sports that have already paid? How do we, it's done, you know, the equities, correct. Do you wanna speak to that?
And it was not really so like 2 female sports that paid, 1 male sport, and then none of the rest of the sports paid, but then football paid 200. So there was no consistency.
And there has to be.
And that was again, was a Title IX thing. I mean, you're talking about not only did you spend $12,000 out of your athletic funds only on males, you then gave a male sport a flat rate. So
We get charged for coming here and play against Moorhead too. And I'm sure they get charged.
we get charged, yeah, for sure. We're all-
Really quickly, I just wanted to touch on and also say I was able to meet Miss Rhymes when I was doing a little interim bookkeeping in between. I did notice while I was there on site physically, some policies and procedures that were not in place, that she has implemented or Mr. Daly has implemented in a group effort, however, but there are definitely, which you guys do get copies of the internal audit reports. There have been findings every year at almost every school. So I've actually created an interim manual for all the bookkeepers and all the principals, and I'm actually gonna do like a training and go to each school on site and sit with them. And, you know, just say, okay, well, we can do this way, this way, and the manual is basically just a prettier, shorter version of the red book. So then we don't get wrote up. And there's receipts being given and not cash being, you know, just handed here or handed there, some of the stuff that she inherited. You know, and also the other thing I wanted to say is that with the internal reporting, the reports that you guys don't get that Ms. Rhymes mentioned, you should be getting those reports. One of the things that Carol and I are working on in progress at this moment is that Skyward has a portion that we pay for as a district called SBAA. And that is all the schools' internal accounts. Right now, each of the schools have their own accounting software. I can't see it. So I have to actually, the only way I can see it is to get a reconciliation report from the school bookkeeper or the school principal, which they do send to me monthly. But I don't actually see the transactions. So I need to see those.
Yeah.
So we're putting all the internal school accounts on SBAA to where I'll see it, you guys will see it, we'll all have access, we'll all have reports. Second thing is assets. The actual Skyward team is coming, we've already scheduled this, instead of going to the ICON conference to see them, which is gonna be just as expensive, and they touch and highlight on certain subjects, we're gonna have them come to us. And they're going to sit down with each of us from the ground up as if they just installed Skyward. And then, because there has been some turnover and a lot of people have utilized some sides of it, but not other sides. So these people will actually train on site here from the ground up, and one of those things is assets, because those do need to be tracked. Because we have to report to the state on any disposals and things like that, so that's very important. So I just wanted to thank you for everything you have come across, but you guys do get the audit reports, but just like I mentioned, you don't see the transactions.
So in those things that I can do, actually see the transactions. You see what we've purchased, where our things are going to, where our money's going, and where it has been. So like, not all that's mine, so make sure 2021 August forward.
How much do you need total?
Realistically,
Realistically.
I would definitely say one major thing that would help would be having the transportation waived for the students, because we're talking about the difference of buying them things that they need.
That's already done.
Okay.
But I'm talking about for all those things that were on your show, your slideshow.
On your show.
I would say in order to like pay all of our bills and get like tracked to where they need to be, the speaker system's fixed, I would probably say maybe 20,000.
That's a guesstimate.
That's a guesstimate. I'm probably facing it really low because I'm not very
What
good
we'd like to do is to come back for
Alicia said to say
and give you a
30.
realistic amount of what we need.
Right,
Okay.
okay.
I don't wanna be, I mean, I can send you everything that we need and then the cost, like.
Just send me a total.
Yeah, I don't want no, I don't know, I ain't gonna know nothing about it in this. Ask me the
Send
total.
us a total.
Did the portalets get picked up?
Yeah.
No, they have not.
The what?
We have porta potties that they refused to come and get because I guess it was an unpaid bill, so we paid the bill and we're waiting for them to come get the porta potties.
Maybe not as well.
Al was the one that told me about that, cause I'm like, why do we have those? He's like, oh, it's an unpaid bill, and I'm like, I just laughed, and then he was really actually serious. He was like,
Let's pay them.
yeah, the bill's paid, and
Okay.
we called him about coming to get it.
Let's pay
I
them.
don't know the exact amount, all I know is that if you can help us clean the slate so we can start fresh with our new process in place.
Okay.
And we'll give you that dollar amount. That's what we're asking.
And I think we're all in agreement and wanting to help because we've seen what's been happening and yes, we get audit reports and we're told that it's fixed, but then we get the same audit report the following year. And then we're told that it's gonna be fixed and this is the steps we're gonna take, and then it gets on the audit. You know what I'm saying? It's like, just because we see it on the audit report, and that's no reflection on Dr. Barfield, I'm talking about before she arrived.
Yes.
You know, we would be audited over and over again for the same issues, told they were being corrected, and then it would be on the next audit. So, you know, with a superintendent in office that's overseeing the principal, who's overseeing the athletic directors, you know, it should never get to a second audit report, in my opinion. And I think that our athletic director, just did not have oversight. And I think that, you know, we've had transition in principals. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but we've had so much transition and turnover that, you know, those things happen. And so I like what AD Rhymes said about, you know, having records to pass on to the next person. We need to do that district-wide, you know,
That is
really.
the purpose of the manual as well.
Yes.
I have one more question. Is each department still arguing over money? I mean, if they have a fundraiser and they have $1,000 that they've earned and they wanna go take the teams out to the Pizza Hut.
No, they all have, like, they all have their individual funds, so basically, as long as they're not allowed to do anything if they don't have money, that's.
Are
Well,
they
that's,
all-
see, that's my, wait, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair at all. That's why you have an athletic department.
Oh,
If
no,
all
when
the
we-
money goes
when
into
we
one
fund- No,
pool.
when we fundraise, it goes into a hole, but say softball does softball's doing a fundraiser, and or actually, I'll use girls soccer, girls soccer sold this wreath, their parents bought in the little cards, they, raffled off the wreath, and I wanna say Gabby and them made $2,000. I mean,
Was that-
every individual sport does still get to raise their own money.
Sure.
The athletic department, we will do a fundraiser. Jeff, aren't they in the Booster Club, it's to do a fundraiser, and then we're gonna do a fundraiser?
Booster Club does a golf tournament
They
every
do the
year.
golf tournament, and they-
And, we had spoken about trying to help you with fundraising,
Yeah.
trying to do a barbecue cook-off.
so we're gonna try to do a fundraiser for athletics, but everybody does get to do their own individual fundraising. So for instance, I'm gonna try to balance the male-female spending. Right now I've done female, but I'll purchase something for males or for both. But they do kind of do their own individual fundraisers, and if they need
I
something,
think
they
what
use
you
that
want to
money.
hear is no child will be left behind.
Well, yeah, or a sport, you know,
No
because
sport
some of
will be
them
left
don't charge to see, and so they don't have any money or
For
anyway.
instance, cross-country is one that doesn't really, they don't have a concession stand, they don't have, a gate, because they just run around the community, the athletic department does pay their bills.
Right, well, I just,
Yeah,
that
that's
was
good.
my,
That's good.
That's my
Since the
question.
Booster Club's been in Moorhaven, and I started playing football in 1973.
No
yes,
change.
sir.
85% of that money went to the football team. And that's just the way of life it was. And y'all not knowing that they were building these athletic departments for that when there's already a hard cost involved in this job. I mean, it's like they're trying to profit off of it. You know?
I definitely think
It's not their fault. When you're talking about holding accountability, everybody sitting in one of them chairs has some accountability. Y'all haven't been doing your accountability either. It's not just them. It's everybody.
That's true.
You know?
That, I agree with you, because if if I didn't know and I let it pass, I'm just as guilty as you. But I can't correct what I don't know.
That's right.
You're right, but I mean, it's just part of that. Football is what, pays for everything.
Yeah.
In the bigger schools. There's no doubt about it.
Well, I think it's the biggest profit to maker. I mean, everybody go to football. You see 3 or 4 parents at baseball.
But in my
I know, I
experience,
was there
that
the other
hasn't
night.
always been true. Because not only does football make the most money,
They
they
spend the
also
most.
cost the
That's
most
right.
with the helmet, reconditioning, and their uniforms are more expensive.
everything.
Everything is more expensive. There has to be equity, but you can't say football's gonna cover the other sports. It just doesn't happen, not anymore. I don't know if it used to or
It
not,
didn't,
but.
they would not give it to them. It doesn't.
And I think
Football
that's,
has never paid
people
for
don't
it.
realize the cost that this sounds like this.
Well, I mean, if they have something special that they wanna do, that department needs to do a fundraiser and have a goal to reach, but.
Yeah, I definitely think all of the internal individual accounts are good. All their
We're good.
bills are paid,
And we help you as much as we can.
everything looks pretty good. I mean, it's not terrible at all. I think we're moving in the right direction. My only thing is just trying to make sure we don't continuously build those transportation costs. In the end, when you talk about $2,000, that's a whole set of uniforms for soccer.
So the board could make the decision, this is me, we could make the decision to not charge for the buses, for any of the sports, right? I
Yes.
mean, that's something within our power to do when we're looking at our budget.
About 8 years ago, we made the decision to charge, so we can definitely
I
take it
know when
away.
I was principal, we did not pay for the buses. We had to pay the drivers, but we did not have to pay for the buses. And a lot of the teams had volunteer drivers.
Also, when we get ready to do our budgets for this year, I'm gonna be putting it in the budget where we pay for the football. I'd like to put it in the budget to pay for the football, the helmet reconditioning. Because that's something, that's safety of our kids, the helmets, we have to have that, and that is a huge expense. But that's something that will go before you as a board to approve.
That's something we did discuss.
I think a little history too is that at one time, most school districts, they would actually have an athletic budget. You know, budget $20,000 for athletics. And also, during those times, I remember in the 80s, when this was happening, there were Coke machines. And the athletics got a lot of money from Coke machines. Well, two things happened. Number one, there was a recession. So around '89, when all these things were getting cut, like especially like middle school sports, and many districts were cut. There were several school districts that, if they did keep their teams, would only allow travel within the district. They wouldn't go outside the district. So if they had 4 middle schools, they would only play each other because of the costs. We had some of these food things that came out. They were saying you can't sell sodas in the school anymore. So there were a lot of things that happened there that caused money to go away from athletics and for athletics to start paying for themselves. Really, if you do choose to pay for the buses, which I think is a great idea, really what you're doing is you're reinstituting more or less a policy of giving money to athletics. And you said it back in the 80s when the school board gave $80,000 to athletics, you're pretty much saying that you're earmarking, maybe Ron, what do you think, about $30,000 in travel for the?
She had to go. I'm here. No, I would say anywhere from 25 to 30,000, but it's also depending who's driving, based off the years of experience. If you have a new driver, a beginning driver, it's gonna be cheaper if you have one with 20 years of experience. That's another.
And that doesn't include West Branch.
Can you make sure you go to the front?
That's right, he's right.
Yeah,
We won't forget you.
It would be Doreen.
It would be all athletic.
Doesn't include us,
Right.
not just for them. They travel far.
And I would like to say this too, and this is kind of piggybacking off of this conversation, but we've got great kids and great coaches. Last night, we went to a track meet in Belglade. Situation occurred, a very dangerous situation. A fight broke out. Our kids were not involved. In fact, our kids and our coaches got to safety, but there was some pepper spray that the deputies had to spray, and some of our kids did ingest a little bit of it. Some of our fans. I was on the phone constantly with our coaches as well as our bus driver, Roberta, and I will tell you that our kids were exceptionally well behaved. They got on the bus when they could get to the bus, and then our Deputy Alvarez escorted them out of Belglade and got them home. So we have great kids. None of our kids tried to get in the fight, and it was very large. It was extremely. I mean, there was many deputies there. So.
You won't be going there.
Yeah, we have a meet at Pahokee, but we are not going to the meet at Pahokee. We are switching it out
Good.
because it's a fight between Pahokee and Blake Central.
All the time.
So they had an incident at the Pahokee meet between each other, then it escalated at the Blake Central meet, and then now there's another meet, but we will not be attending that one. We're gonna be replacing it.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah, right.
But now, the accessibility to guns and why put our kids in that environment? So.
5.1, public comment on agenda items. Jackie, are there any comment cards?
No comment cards.
Okay, 6.1, proposed amendments to the agenda, and it looks like there are 7 amendments
I need to pull 7.5.
from the consent agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, okay. Okay.
What did you ask for?
All right, so I'm asking for a motion to approve the proposed amendments to the agenda.
Okay, I move to approve the amended agenda items.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, consent agenda, is there anything that needs to be pulled? And Dr. Barfield has indicated that number 7.5 needs to be pulled. Anybody have anything else? wait for Mrs. Perlin apparently here, make sure she doesn't have one.
Why don't we take a little 10-minute break, Jeannie? Should we do this one? Let's take a
You want to take a
10-minute break.
5-minute break or not? Or just wait for her?
But she.
She just is in the restroom, I think.
She's coming, okay.
We're on 7. Did you have anything to pull from the consent agenda?
Oh, yes. Nobody else did?
One, I have one.
7.1. 7.11 and 7.12.
Okay. I'll take a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda except for 1, 5, 11, and 12.
I motion.
A second.
Any questions? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 7.1. Mrs. Pearl.
Okay, so, I spoke with Dr. Barfield about this and, spoke to Mrs. Lee about it just because I happened to run into her in the hall at the high school when I was over there for something else. There is a decrease in pay in the move from HR director to assistant principal. And I wanted to make sure that Mrs. Lee is aware of that and that she's okay with that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I knew that from working in HR. I knew the salary sheets. Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
And I'm good. I thoroughly enjoy what I'm doing.
Wonderful.
And I want it on record, this was not a, for something she did wrong or that something that she wasn't doing. Miss Lee is an extremely amazing, professional woman. She brought our HR department up quite a bit, and we've got a ways to go. I mean, we knew from the audit that we had a lot of stuff that we had to do, and she's even said it. There's lots of things in that department that she's never done before. I think she is in her element where she's at, and I know the staff at Moorhaven Middle High School is really excited. But this was not in retribution.
Thank you.
That was all. I just wanted to make
Right.
note of the change in salary.
I'll take a motion.
Motion.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
7.5, approve Lindsay Hall to be an extended substitute for 5th grade vacancy. Dr. Barfield.
I
You
pulled
just
that.
pulled, that's
Yes.
just pulled.
Pulled.
Okay, okay. 7.11, Mrs. Prowatt.
Okay, so 7.11 is approval of a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old class at Westlake School. And then, I guess, can we talk about 7.12 at the same time?
That's related, I would say,
We
yes.
skipped 7.6.
No, we didn't, we're done.
No, we
That's the
didn't.
consent agenda, we already did
Okay.
that.
I had it circled like somebody pulled it.
So, and then if we add the 3-year-old and 4-year-old class, it means adding 2 teachers and 2 paras. And I did talk with Dr. Barfield quite a bit yesterday, and we had Mrs. Schillinger on the phone to make sure that we could fund that, because it is gonna take some funding to hire the teachers and the paras. I'm not opposed to it at all. I think we need that program out there. And Mrs. Schillinger assured me that we were gonna earn plenty of money from VPK federal funds and ESE services funds and FTE to fund those positions. But then after I got home, I thought, geez, I didn't even ask, where are we gonna house those kids? Do we have a classroom for them at Westglades?
Yes, I have a plan.
Dorian, could you come to the mic, please?
Good morning. Last year, we downsized our first grade to 3 units, and foresee with projections, that's staying the same for this next school year for sure. I spoke to one of my first grade teachers, about moving, so that the last 2 classrooms in building 300 will be available for the 3-year-old and the 4-year-old classrooms. She has a VPK student come in, and she's a Glades County resident also, so she was willing to do that, and so we're no longer using the 300 computer lab, and so we're gonna have another cozy cottage, and she's gonna move into that room and use the restroom right inside the building for her students. So that's the plan for next school year.
And what's gonna happen to those portables that belong to RCMA? Any plan?
RCMA will still be on campus as well, so they will have an RCMA, and then we'll also have a Glades County pre-K. Because we have a contract with them, I think it was a 50 or 30 or something crazy contract with RCMA.
So parents are gonna have a choice. They can go to RCMA or they can go to West Glades.
Correct.
And we're gonna advertise
Yes,
that.
It has not been advertised, and we get calls every single day. Questions like, I have a child in 7th grade, I have one coming to VPK, will they automatically get a spot? And so we've been telling them the open enrollment begins on April 1st, and that we were voting, I told them that we're voting on it today, whether or not it'll even happen. And so I don't believe that we're gonna have any problem. Matter of fact, I'm glad to see that we're gonna have a para so that we can have more kids in each unit, because just with staff members alone and Glades County residents, I think we're gonna fill those up.
How many kids would you be able to have with a teacher and a para?
It's usually, it's 20, I think, for 4-year-olds, right?
Yeah, for one teacher,
I know the old stuff, cause I did preschool a long time, I'm not sure if it's the same.
so for one teacher in a VPK classroom, we can have up to 11 students. So if we have over 11, we need to bring in an aide. And for the teacher, they have to have either their CDA or their bachelor's. In the Early Learning Coalition or the ELC, they now have requirements of certain courses that the teacher and the aide have to take. And then they'll be provided to myself, Ms. Schillinger, and so on, and we'll keep it in their file.
I'm sorry, with one para, how high can they go?
Up to 20.
Okay.
So we could potentially have 40 students in there. Do you think this is gonna reduce the number of students that will go to RCMA? Potentially.
Potentially. It could. The only issue that we've been having with RCMA, and Ms. Schillinger can speak on that with me and Dr. Barfield, because we've met a couple of times, is that the students that we staff that are Glades County residents and we staff with ESE services, we don't have any more slots at RCMA. They're completely filled. So we're not able to staff our students or Glades County residents at that RCMA location.
The problem is that the unit was placed there to feed into our school, and it's been less and less students that are coming from there coming to our school because they're Henry County, and they're going to Henry County schools.
I would love to see that just go away.
I still have a question. Who decides who gets to go to your school versus RCMA? What factor?
So Mr. Gresseth and I, and Ms. Schillinger, and Dr. Barfield, we all kind of met, and what we're kind of looking at now is we kind of have 4 different slots. So we have students with ESE services, we have Glades County residents, we were talking about having staff children also have PIC, and then once those slots are kind of filled through those 3 options, students from Hendry that live near Glades that are on a waiver can attend at that point.
I truly believe that it'll fill because I can tell you, since I've been superintendent, this situation and this want has been the ‑1 phone call I've received. I received probably, I'd say 5 a day at least. I mean, we're gonna have a huge lottery system because it's gonna fill very quickly.
And this is gonna be a full day program, not a half day.
I think one thing she hit on is our priority is our ESE students. Really the main reason we're even looking at doing this, because we don't have much space in that school. The main reason though is because we're getting ESE students, or 3 and 4-year-olds from Glades County who are getting staffed into programs, but there's no slots in RCMA for them to go to. So their only other options are to be bused all the way to Moorhaven in order to go to school. So the first priority is gonna have to be ESE kids. We're thinking that we have to decide the second priority is gonna be staff children or Glades County children. And then last priority would be if there's any open slots, we would open that up to other out of zone, out of attendance area students. But you know, our thinking is we would probably try to start the school by maxing at about 15. That way we have open slots for those students who come in who are ESE students who become staff. Because we don't want to be in the same situation as our CMA where we open it up for everyone, we staff it with 20 students, and all of a sudden we have a couple new kids who move into Glades County into that zone who are ESC, and we have to find a spot for them, because that's just it. We have to provide services for 3 and 4-year-old ESE students. So I mean, the other option is last in, first out. What I mean by that is you fill it with 20, but you need to know if you're number 19 or 20, you know, maybe in October you might get booted out. We really don't want to be in a situation like that.
Do you have to open it to out of county? Because I'm
No.
thinking as these kids move forward
No.
into our middle school where we're crowded,
Well,
if we don't have to take them, why would we?
The only out of county that we would look at first would be staff. Because a lot of our staff are out of county.
Right.
That are looking at this. But, no, you don't have to open up. The only reason you might open it up, in my thoughts, would be if your numbers were low and you needed to generate more funds, more BPK funding, so you wanted to
I'm
have
just thinking,
more
if they
students
get in
receive.
that pre-K, they're gonna expect to be there through 8th grade, and then we're gonna, right?
No.
That was what
No.
my conversation we had, that's not gonna be the case.
Okay,
If
so they're
coming
gonna
about,
understand that.
They're gonna have to do open enrollment again to get
Okay,
into the.
okay.
Pre-K is only a pre-K, and then, if Hendry County wants to continue to send students to RCMA, they can send students to RCMA and receive services through RCMA, Glades West while they're still there. So they will have the option of having something that's still at the same campus, but just not a part of the Glades County pre-K.
Okay, so
And
they
we're
won't
planning
be
to-
grandfathered in necessarily, okay.
And we're definitely planning to not only make that a full-day program, but keep a full-day program in Moorhaven.
Yes.
I have one more question. Are we violating any contract, any type of contract that we have with them by opening our,
No.
it's taking students away from them with our
Well,
CMA?
they don't have any room,
No,
so we're
but
not taking it.
Nothing exclusive.
And they're fully aware and they're on board.
Yeah, because originally we were gonna ask for them to move off our campus.
Well, I know they did
And-
here, so that's my question.
Well, and that was our original plan, and they came up with a contract that was signed many years ago, and I wanna say it was either a 50-year or a 30-year contract.
Mr. Aldrich had to sign that then.
Now, it goes way back before Aldridge, I believe, and, or I don't know, but, anyway, we tried to,
West Glades.
yeah, we tried to get out, and they came back with a huge figure. So, you know, this is something that we can do and still, you know, keep our relationship with RCMA.
Okay.
They have a contract to be there, but our contract ended with them for them to serve our students.
Correct.
It ended with them, I wanna say the last contract that was signed was, by Scott Bass and Vivian.
Okay.
So and that's part of the reason why we're having such an issue, because they are our sole provider out there for pre-K, that they have to take our ESC students. And because we're not technically under a contract with them, we're kind of on that old system of, well, we'll just keep going with what was there, then they don't have to take them. And so that's
Well,
where we've kind of been in the.
And then we're having problems whenever they get into kindergarten and not being ready.
Absolutely.
And I can tell you that the signature from the school board chair at the time was Kathy Browning, because I was mad that she signed it, so,
Okay.
That was a long time ago.
yeah.
And then we should be coming to the end of that contract.
We are, I think we've got 7 or 8 years. It's
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion on 7-11? I'll take a motion.
Make a motion that we approve a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old class at Westglade School beginning with the 22-23 school year.
I'll second.
Any more questions? All in favor?
Aye.
7-12, we need a motion.
I move to approve 2 teachers and 2 paraprofessionals for a 3-year-old and 4-year-old class at Westglade School beginning the 22-23 school year.
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 8, action agenda, approved clinical experiences affiliation agreement between Glades County School District and the Indian River State College, July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025.
Yes, please.
Mr. Gressa?
I can. I was approached, by someone, at meeting then, I guess it was Indian River State College. Oh, is it agreement? I was approached by someone from Indian River State College as to whether, student teachers or teachers who were getting their college experience, meaning going into classrooms and getting their hours, if they would be allowed on campuses in Glades County. Well, in the past, when I was the principal at Payette, I tried to get some IRS, Indian River State College, student teachers out at the school, because first of all, it's always good to have those people in place, and once you have those people in place, sometimes they like to stay. And you get some good student teachers out there, you get some good teachers, it all works together. Well, back, even pre-COVID, there was a separation where any River State college students really couldn't pass the Okeechobee border. They couldn't go anything west of Okeechobee and do all their student teaching or their practices, because anything west of there was actually Florida Southwest College. So they kind of kept their own lines. But since COVID happened, and now there was so much more online learning and stuff like that, those lines have really been dissolved. And so it came to my attention that there was a person who wanted to get some of their hours in Glades County. Turns out it's a Payette, but I didn't know that at first. But this agreement, this articulation agreement, will allow for any students who are actually going to Indian River State College, and I know that there's they are a 4-year program right now, and they offer that 4-year program even at the campus on Okeechobee. So if there's a student who may be needing to get their experience or student teaching and wants to come to Glades County, I think that it would be a great idea to open that avenue up so that they could be able to do those things.
I agree. In fact, we need to let them know that we have that option available
Oh, absolutely,
for those students in their education program. I think that would help with our recruitment even.
Yes, and I've talked to their head of their education department. She's the one who is really pushing the articulation agreement, which I agree with. I also talked to Russ Brownman, and Russ was the principal at Payette before I was, and now he's actually the provost at Indian River State College in Okeechobee. Just to let them know that we're looking at that availability here.
Also, we're going to our new HR director, Miss Gabby, and Miss Mel and Dr. Daly, and I believe Miss Tibbet are going Friday to FSW on a recruitment trip. There's 47 graduates of the School of Education, and we're really hoping that we can grab a couple.
Okay, great.
I move to approve the clinical experience affiliation agreement between Glades County School District and Indian River State College, July 1, 2022 to June 30, 2025.
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
9.1, approval of additional listed volunteers for Moorhaven Elementary School for the 21-22 school year.
I make a motion to approve the additional listed volunteers for Moorhaven Elementary School for the 21-22 school year.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
9.2, approval of additional list of volunteers for Westglade School for 21-22.
I'm looking for approval on an additional list of volunteers for Westglade Schools for the 21-22 school year.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
9.3, approval to hire Eric Gray in transportation upon completion of required certifications effective March 11th, 2022.
I move to approve the hiring, I'm sorry, I closed the window out. I move to approve to hire Eric Gray in transportation upon completion of required certifications effective March 11th, 2022.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
9.4, approval to hire Amanda Huseman in transportation upon completion of required certifications effective March 11th, 2022.
I'm motion for approval to hire Amanda Hausman in transportation upon completion of required certification effective March 11th, 2022.
Second.
I just have one question. Are these both people gonna be bus drivers?
Yes.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen. That's what I see. It's her.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
9.5, approved bid from Tobler Construction for the replacement of the track at Moorhaven Middle High School in the amount of $120,000.
So, yesterday, myself, Mr. Brown, and Mr. Gressett opened the bids. They're all time-stamped, everything was done correctly, and we went with Tobler. They did an outstanding presentation, very professionally put together, pictures of past projects. There was a list of the schools and the counties that they had worked with, and therefore, we are gonna go with their company, and it was 120,000.
Want me to speak on that?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. This, see if I can get this going again. Just for some more background knowledge. I'll get past this. This is, just so you know, this is our current track right now. It's not in the best of shape. I'm gonna make some pictures so you really can kind of put a picture to that. And I know that there was some discussion about making an 8-lane track, and right now it's a 6-lane track. And so, along with some of those pictures, what I did is I took some other pictures to show you that, you know, I'm not against this, but were we to expand to an 8-lane track, then these are the light poles on the left side. Those are the light poles on the visitor side. Now, a track is 3 feet wide, so we would have to go 6 more feet out, which means we would have to move those light poles back in order to do that. Whoops. Also on the right, you'll see that we have our home stands, and there actually is a lane in front of our home stands. You can count that as lane 7, I guess, but that little apron right there. But in order to add another 3 feet, you would have to move the first row of stadium stands back, because it was never designed to be an 8-lane track. Also, you'd have to move the visitor. It would be that easy thing. You have to move the visitors stands back as well. And then there's a question about where the concession stand is, because if you went 6 feet back, there may not be a walkway to get to those restrooms from the concession stand, if you were to go to an 8-lane track. Also, there was, we didn't put those other pictures in, okay, anyway. Also, there was some discussion about the synthetic track, or the rubberized track, and I think that A.D. Rhymes talked about that. One thing, I know that there were some things on Facebook about costs, and I'm all for a synthetic track. That'd be wonderful. There aren't many schools around us that have a synthetic track. In fact, I know for sure that Clueston High School does not, right?
Correct.
I know Okeechobee High School has a 6-lane asphalt track. While I was up at that facilities meeting with Al Brown, Al actually went to a meeting about synthetic tracks, and what he found out right now is at a minimum Synthetic tracks are going in at about $30 per square foot, and it goes up to $65 per square foot. So, the inside part of your track is 440 yards. And so and what you're meaning, what you're talking about is square feet, so you multiply that times 3, that's about 1380, something like that. And then you have to multiply it times the width of the track, which is, there's 6 lanes at 3 feet a lane, that's 18 feet, plus there's a foot on each side, so it's 20 feet. So it's 20 feet times that 1380 figure, and then times $30 per square foot comes out to just under $800,000. And that's a minimum cost.
What was it? I'm sorry.
800.
Yeah, that would be just under 800. That would be a minimum cost for a rubberized track.
800,000.
Right. According to the architects from around the state that were actually at those meetings and presenting. And that doesn't account for upkeep. It also, once you go to a rubberized track, you have to have special equipment in order to be able to take your mower over the track to mow. Also, you would not be able to ever drive any vehicles on that track, so during homecoming, you wouldn't be able to drive your floats on those things or anything. So, this project is actually in the 5-year plan that you've approved. It's approved, it's actually in the plan for this year. So we're trying to get that done. We did not budget $800,000. We budgeted about $100,000 for the project because we thought we were gonna go with an asphalt track. But you know, if you want to direct me to try and get bids on a rubberized track, I would be very happy to do that. But I'm going to recommend that we accept Tobler Construction as our builder. Their base price for the track was actually a couple $1,000s more than what a second bid was, but like the superintendent was saying, you know, they had all the necessary documentation, they had evidence of work of tracks at other schools, and they also were within the bid parameters. The other bid that we had actually came in 4 days late, so.
Brian,
Yes,
I think I'm going with the 120.
Yeah.
Because the 800 don't seem to be going with me.
Well, people can argue with me.
I mean,
I'm just saying
that-
that's the figures that I got.
Now,
from
the
that.
rest of the boys ran on the asphalt. So the ones coming here need to run a little on that. I mean, we don't have that kind of, I don't think.
Yeah.
No.
120, let's go with that.
And Mrs. Rhymes actually talked.
Yeah.
about that. Yeah. She actually discussed that, that's the preference for a district meet would be on a rubberized track. But it doesn't say you cannot have a meet on an asphalt track.
We going with
For
that.
state series, you have to have 8 lanes.
And for state series, you have to have 8 lanes, correct?
Not for anything else.
Right.
That's what I was gonna ask, the purpose of the 8 lane. That was for state
State,
track meet.
state track.
Have we've never had a state track meet here, have we?
No.
We didn't
That's
qualify.
districts, regionals, or state.
And for
Series
800,000,
itself.
we ain't gonna have
But we've never hosted the district that I can remember.
How much did you say that we had already put in the budget for that?
We actually put 80,000.
80?
That was part of the 5-year plan that started last year because that's what about the price was 2 years ago.
Do we have anything left over with maintenance?
Yes.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, we have money for that.
Good.
So
So
I
have,
checked on that.
Yeah, let's,
perfect.
Don says yes. So,
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
you actually have a little bit.
let's vote.
Good.
Okay.
Hey,
All right,
Thank you.
hit it, sister.
I make a motion that we approve the bid from Tobler Construction for the replacement of the track at Moravian Middle High School for the amount of $120,000.
And I second that motion.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
9.6, accept resignation of Lindsay Hall as paraprofessional at Moorhaven Elementary effective March 11, 2022.
I motion that we accept resignation of Lindsay Hall as paraprofessional at Moorhaven Elementary effective March 11th, 2022.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
9.7, approval of Madison Hamlet's medical leave of absence effective March 1st, 2022.
I move to approve Madison Hamlet's medical leave of absence effective March 1, 2022.
Second?
Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Number 10, general public comments. Tracy Hudson?
Hello, my
Hey.
name is Tracy Hudson, and my son is in fifth grade at Wareham Elementary School, and he's on safety patrol. Incident happened at the school, I guess, I don't even know for sure, because nobody really knows what it was, it's said to be a vape pen. He didn't bring it there. He didn't carry it around, he went into the bathroom with somebody that had this, and then I guess it got told around school. I was brought in, he tried to be very honest, I thought, and forthcoming. He said he didn't smoke it. I spoke to him in length about this because, I mean, he's an athlete. He does taekwondo 3 days a week. He goes to football practice. He runs 5Ks. Smoking is nothing that this child would even worry about doing because he's so athletic. Well, he got suspended from school for 3 days and taken off of safety patrol. And I just think that that is very extreme for his minor part in this whole thing. That's all I have to say. And I just would like for them to reconsider putting him on safety patrol because I too, we did a lot of work for this program. And if you ask the sponsors, they will tell you, I was there every event. And that's why I'm so upset because he and I both put a lot into this. I'm sorry.
What did he personally get accused of?
I don't even know. I haven't even gotten the recording.
Who does know?
This is public comment.
Okay.
This is a,
We can't do anything, but we can listen to you right now. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
I mean, so there's nothing that anybody can do, like, to,
this is the portion of the meeting where you're allowed to give public comment. This is not an action item for us today.
so if nothing happens today, then he's just off because it's like the cutoff date.
There's no further. Yes. Thank you. Number 11, board member comments and business.
I think so.
No?
I think I do. Hold on.
She's digging.
So one thing I wanted to ask is if we could maybe move the superintendent's comments before ours, then maybe you would cover some of the things that I'm about to bring up. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like sometimes you were gonna speak to it, but I wasn't sure. So this was when I had the floor. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanna throw that out there if anybody objects to moving superintendent before board member.
Can we begin that next time, because I
Okay.
planned mine around what you all were gonna say,
Okay,
so,
all right, okay.
I wanted to ask the same thing.
okay.
So some of the things I've already done, I want to publicly thank Carol for her answering tons of questions for me. I appreciate it. I am planning to attend the finance forum in Howie in the Hills, I think Ms. Provant and Gloria. And I just wanted to extend an invitation to Dawn and to Joanna in case if the board thinks it's appropriate that they attend. I know our previous finance director attended with us once and really got a lot out of it. And I think they would both, and the reason for Joanna is because they go over so much of how they calculate the funding per student. I think it would be good for her to understand, you know, in her job of entering the data, how important it is and what to be looking for, those categories that provide higher funding. I wanted to ask about the performance pay issue. Is the union still working on that? I just don't want us to drop that and have that another finding, so just wanted to bring that up. I also wanted to talk for a second about the strategic plan. And, are you gonna speak to that
Yes.
in your section? I'm just gonna go ahead and say my comments about what we have. I found it very generic and not real specific to our school. And there were some things on there that I want to add,
Okay.
but I want us to have discussion about it. One of the things was, the High School Athletic Association, which apparently that's been taken care of, but I want maybe in the strategic plan to make sure we never get in that position again by having policies and procedures that are followed by our athletic director. There's several other things that I felt like should have been on there that were not on there.
Can I address that?
Sure,
Just only because,
sure.
Mr. Bigger is going, I've asked him to lead it's called, stock takes. And what you're seeing is part of the strategic planning process. So that should look kind of generic.
Okay.
Our next step is where it gets into the details.
Okay.
So you will see, in fact, so each goal will have a person assigned to it, and that person has, like, for example, for the finance, they will have to report, and you will see, moving forward, where we are on those. So it will become very narrow, very narrow. Also, you will, what the goal of the strategic plan is that we don't even discuss it if it isn't aligned with our strategic plan. So, if somebody comes out and says, hey, Dr. Barfield, I wanna do this, well, you show me on does it align on our strategic plan? So you will get what you're asking
Okay.
for, but it's just not, we're not at that point yet.
Okay, good. And is all of that gonna be complete before budget?
Yes, actually,
Okay.
yeah, would you please?
I was gonna present the next board meeting. Well, I didn't want to forget, but it's okay. Yeah, basically, the stock take process is where we look at the fine tuning of what's gonna work on that big goal you're reading. And those 5 strategies, anywhere from 3 to 5 strategies underneath it, that's gonna reach that goal. Well, those lead people are gonna identify what's gonna move that progress, what's gonna move in, for example, in achievement. In grade 3 was one of the goals, by 3 years from now, we're gonna move it so many percentage points. Those strategies are gonna be addressed in the fine tuning part, that's in the stock take part. Twice a year, we will report out to the board where those stand. So you'll see 4 different colors, red, amber green, green, where are we at with that, okay? In the beginning, it's probably gonna look very red, because we're at a baseline. And then as you see through the 3 years, as we do 2 reports a year to you guys, as we meet almost every month as a cabinet and things of that nature, addressing each different goal, once a month, a different goal will be addressed, we should see progress being made. And if they're not, then those pointing questions come back from the superintendent down to the leads through that stock take, which is what they call it. What's being done? What's our next steps? What are we gonna do to move that forward? It's sitting in red, it's been red last time. What's gonna be done next to move that forward into the amber red? And then next time after that, try and get it moved on so that by the end of 3 years, hopefully we're all green and we can meet some new goals. But the big thing about it is, what she was talking about is, that strategic plan is your guiding principle for the next 3 years of where you make your decisions at, these are the 5 things we identified as being the most important for our district to move forward. So therefore, if we try to make a decision, if it doesn't tie to one of those 4 goals, why are we doing it? It's not moving the positions that we said were important. Now, this was our first time kind of going through this as our team is going through it, so we made goals without really knowing where we were going or what we were doing or how we're doing it, kind of playing it by ear. We've learned some things now that, okay, next time we do this in 3 years, we can probably make some stronger goals, things of that nature. Not saying that these current goals are bad in any way, shape, or form. They are moving the district in the right direction, especially with a lot of topics that they're dealing with. But next time through, once those topics are kind of addressed, we can make some better goals that address other things that we can now make as a important point.
And are school improvement plans going to mimic our strategic plan?
They
I think
should feed into it.
all go together.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I've talked to a couple other districts that are actually beyond their first year in this, like Okeechobee, they're in their 2nd, 3rd year. They don't make decisions at all. Everything is in alignment with that. That is their guiding Bible, so to speak.
Right, right,
It's a living document, that's their guiding principle, that if it doesn't tie back to that,
right.
that's not really front burner kind of stuff we need to deal with, because these are the things we said we need to move.
Right, right. And thank you for your work on that. And ultimately, this board, you know, as was pointed out, we're supposed to be we're supposed to be creating this plan. That's why we were elected, was to figure out where we want the district to go. And, you know, I had one phone call discussion with a lady, and my mind's changed since that was months ago that I had that conversation. So I just feel like we need to be included more, or we are irrelevant to the district.
And I agree. We've kind of been left out of the process, and we're presented with things, but it should be our plan.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm thinking as we're sitting here and I'm listening to you, shouldn't we have a workshop or some opportunity to sit and discuss, and maybe have all of you come in? And I just
truly,
feel like I've been totally left out of this
I'm not agreeing or
process. I
disagreeing.
agree with Crystal. I had one phone call that lasted about 30 minutes with the lady that was writing this, and I've seen or heard or had no input since then.
I do know, because I've been in different roles in the process, because I was a principal when it first started, and then I moved to director, which is a different kind of role in dealing with the strategic plan. Realistically, the strategic plan should have input from all stakeholders, not just school board, not just school, not just district. We've had surveys where we get input in from parents, we get input in from our business community partnerships and things like that, because realistically, our strategic plan builds our students, which feeds into our community. So therefore, all stakeholders involved should have input into that.
And they did, but we didn't hear it. The business, the people, the committee was formed, and they came and they talked. I never saw any notes. I don't know what the community wants. You know what I'm saying? I feel
But
like.
that's what's in the strategic plan. I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
and I think that going off the guidance of the consultant that's
Right.
walking
Yeah,
us
I'm
through
not
that.
blaming you. This
No,
is
no,
not
I
your
know,
fault.
I didn't take it as that, but
Okay.
I'm just saying that, you know, this is the process. It's not, I understand that this is the board's, you know, strategic plan, but the stakeholders, all stakeholders are what, you know, are supposed to build the plan. And then, I mean, if you want us to, once they make that final, I mean, nothing's final until it's final.
So we see it too.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is if you wanna see it before it goes public,
Absolutely.
I mean, then that's something we can do. I can tell you in other counties, sometimes when that happens, then the plan goes astray, because then your goals get changed. And you spend all this time working on these goals, and I say you, I mean, the people that wrote the plan. So it's kinda like, I mean, and I don't mean this in any negative way, it's gonna come out that way, but if that was the case, we should've just said, would y'all write the strategic plan, and we'll follow it.
Because the goals were established by the input from all the
Correct.
stakeholders.
Correct.
But I would still like to see it.
Oh, of course,
Well-
and I've emailed you everything I've gotten, I've tried to keep you all,
Right.
yeah. But there's Corey, who is our consultant, and then she sends it to whoever that designs it, and, you know, I send her the pictures and the verbiage and all that. And then, so right now, we're waiting on the final verbiage, or the final product. But I will tell you, I know in another county, a neighboring county, they were ready to go, and they said, we wanna send it out again, and then it's all gone
We're
crazy.
gonna have to
So
make it public.
I wanna caution you that, I mean, we wanna do it right. I mean,
Right.
and I know you all want that as well,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I don't want us to get on too many. I mean, the goals that the stakeholders set forth were your parents, your teachers, your community members, your business leaders. I don't want the goals, which they're gonna be approximately the same, but I don't want us to go kind of.
Right, I understand. It's from the training that I've had with Florida School Board Association, our job is to set the direction for the ship, and then, and
let
give
it
the
sink.
steering wheel over to her and let her drive us there.
I'm just
But I don't feel like we've set this direction. I feel like I don't know. I mean, for example, our graduation rate data had not come out.
Mhm.
If we don't put that in our strategic plan, we're not doing our jobs. That graduation rate's gotta come up.
And I
it
think
needs to
that
be
comes in the details of what he was
public,
saying.
and it needs to be out there, and somebody needs to be working on
Well,
that.
Realistically speaking, also, you gotta remember, you're picking 3 to 5 goals. There are 10 goals we could do in this district any given day, saying, we need to work on this, we gotta do this. But you gotta narrow it down to a 3-year plan.
Right,
And then once the 3 years is up, then we move to the next set, and the next set.
right.
My advice, if there's something in there that you think is important, take some notes. When we come back to readdress well, at this point, it'd be 2.5 years. Come back to readdress our next strategic plan, and because we've made progress, I'm confident we will. Then we can bring those elements, if there's still an issue at that time, we can bring those elements in. But some of those things like graduation rates are impacted by the achievement goal, which would be getting our 3rd graders ready and on target, which would have impact down the road on those types of things.
But not in
So-
3 years.
No, not in 3 years.
They're gonna get it.
But there are,
But that needs to
But
be
in-
addressed within 3 years.
but the achievement goal also
And
had a
we're working on
sub-strategy
that.
of
I understand
post-secondary and CTE, and that would.
Yeah.
So there are some strategies in there that do address different elements of those things that now we fine tune in the next section of work, which when I get in the leads who don't know who they are yet, we'll find out soon. You know, they'll have to do some of that nitty-gritty work and look exactly at those metrics that you're talking about to see those.
And we're going through this at the same time as Hendry County, DeSoto County, and
I know Hendry, I knew DeSoto, I know
Hendry,
us.
DeSoto,
I
and
thought it was Okeechobee.
I think one more. I
Okeechobee's
don't-
1 year ahead of us.
Yes,
Those
Okeechobee
other
and
districts
Highlands
won't.
are one ahead of us.
Yeah.
So we're going through this with the same time, so kind of each county is coming back with different, experiences. But, I mean, definitely as soon as she sends it, I can send it to you all. And, cause like, for example, the first one I sent out, Ms. Brolin called me and said, hey, and there were some things that she caught that even when I went through, I didn't catch. And so I think the more eyes on it, I think that is a great thing. I mean, it could be something as much as a period somewhere. I mean, and I want whatever we publish, I want it to be highly professional and I want it to be right.
And I want it to be relevant.
Correct,
I want it to
exactly.
not be a document
Yeah.
that looks nice and pretty and we put on the shelf for 3 years.
And that's,
And that's-
me
I
and
want it to
Dr.
be-
Barfield just had a meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
And I told her, I'm telling you right now, my job is to hound you and to bother you and to pester you
Yeah.
to make sure that this doesn't become a book on the shelf.
Right.
This is a document, and she's expressed her interest that she wants this to be a guiding principle too, that she doesn't want this to be something that goes on the shelf. And my job is to watchdog her while she's trying to push
Right.
those strategic goals.
Because it can get with so many, like he said, on any given day in our district, there could be 20 goals. Or, there's so
Right.
much that we wanna do and we wanna improve. But we've had to try to narrow it down to the 4 goals and try to, but at the same time, and we did ask this question, we asked Corey, if we get to a goal and we just see that it's become irrelevant, or if it's just really not, is this a cemented? And she's like, absolutely not. And that's where the stock takes will be very relevant to making sure that we move. It's kind of like a roadmap to our district of where we're going. So I definitely agree with you. I mean, I could see where it looks like we didn't, but
I was gonna say, if there's, when are you expecting the final to go over?
so she
They
said
said by the end of the week.
end of the week.
By the end of the week, and is there any other things that are kind of open? What I was gonna say is maybe one day next week, we can all come in the evening and workshop whatever's still out there that needs to be done.
I can't do it next week,
Okay.
but the week
Well, I
after.
thought we were gonna wait for
Yeah.
that part.
Well,
of it.
I'm saying after that comes.
No,
Sometime
after
before
their-
budget.
the other-
Sometime before budget,
yeah.
we need to meet.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, not next week. They're not, the rest of the people aren't gonna be done with their part.
Now, my
Okay.
plan is to do a summer briefing, like, not July, June. That's kind of like your base for the new year, this is our baseline, and then do a mid-year report, that would be your 2 reports every year. So that June one, now, timelines right now are kind of compacted because we're still trying to get the plan finished and stuff like that for a June meeting. That one might be pushed for the first year to August, but I know August is really busy on agenda items, so I don't want to push it to there. I'm trying to consider your time too. But we do want 2 presentations, like 6 months apart, so that you're seeing where we're at, what progress we've made. Where we're at, what progress we've made. That's our goal, or my goal as a stock take facilitator.
The stock take, is that part of what we paid for when we paid for this?
Yeah, Corey's the one who briefed me on how to do what I need to do. I had a meeting with her, last week, I believe it was, where she sat down and me and DeSoto were like, oh, deer in headlights, but yeah, that's where they sat down and told us how that's kind of, the follow-up process. It's not just writing the document. Here's the second set, the next phase of your project.
And that's all part of the original payment that we agreed to.
I have no answer.
Understanding this thing.
Is that a software program that you use?
No, I mean, I have
Just a
templates for her,
process?
so like that, but it's basically, for example, if, and I'm just gonna pick something randomly out of the area. If Dawn was picking a goal for finance that says we're gonna track this money spending and make sure that there's a PO for everything before we spend. Well, after that first stock take, when they come back to her department, so do you do any payouts without a PO? Well, we had 2. Oh, that's a no-no, that would've been a gig on an audit. So next time I meet you, there should be 0, because that's we progress, going from 2 to 0. And then the next stock take, when I met her, I'd ask her that strategy. Hey, on that goal, did you meet that? Yes, we had a PO for everything on time. And then I'd follow up with that on the next stock take. Not in addition to the other items on her list and her goal, if that was one of her strategies or one of her points of metrics. Now, after getting 2 or 3 POs for everything, maybe it's time to retire that particular strategy and start looking at the next metric so we can keep cleaning up those areas for that goal. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So the only other thing I had was sort of a legislative update. You guys get your emails from Mr. Doolin, so you know everything that I know, but they have not agreed on a budget, so we're not gonna be finished tomorrow like was scheduled. I'm sure they'll hurry up though, because I'm sure they're ready to go home. But it looks like possibly the 12-year term limits for school boards is probably going to be passed. And that's all I had. Oh, Medicaid. I just wanna know, are we making progress?
Yes.
Do we have any money?
We don't have money yet.
Okay.
We were in our first, sample of running the payments for it. And, all the rest of the information was supposed to go up. It should be going up by Friday, so.
Okay, so next meeting, we might have some money? Okay, I'm looking on that finance statement for income, Medicaid,
Put it on the agenda.
1,900?
Put it on the agenda.
That was for the administrative costs?
Small cost.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we're still in the red on that.
We're working. And I will tell you also on Monday, I've got about 8 people in our office that were coming in. We are going to be aligning all the job codes in the whole district. Job codes, job description, salary schedules in Skyward. And I think when that happens, we're expecting there to be some huge revenue alerts as well. So we're excited about that. So for example, let me explain what I mean. Mr. Bigger, his title right now is still showing correct in Skyward as principal.
One's bottom director, one's bottom.
Yes.
My
So
job code
when
Job code is
so when the Medicaid is billed, it's not correct because his title is not, he would get more money if he was under the correct code. So we're gonna correct that. That's not, I don't think, we've got to go through a whole district. I know yesterday I think they did 6 people and it took several hours. So we're looking forward to doing the whole district.
So if I went on Skyward,
Yes, ma'am.
I'll be able to look and see where everybody is in their right positions.
Not until after we finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna start Monday.
One by one, on Monday. We only got
Big party?
We're on Monday, we're gonna meet, and we're gonna individually go one by one by one. Name matches job code, matches pay code.
Okay,
Boom, 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 and then move on to the next one.
okay.
It's just gonna be all of us sit in one room and knock it all out at one time, and it's right from here forward.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay.
That includes everybody in the district.
The reason why that's so important is because we receive back for our SDAC when we go to charge for our administrative fees that are involved with planning and care coordination for our ESC students. We get back a percentage based off of that job code. So So for example, if I have a job code for an LPN, I'm gonna make much less than if I job code that correctly, that we have an RN, or vice versa. So that's why it's so important. A director doing a job at 100% versus a principal who is maybe doing it 10% is a different amount of money that we're going to receive. That SDAC money that we get back is our administrative fees, and it goes right back to the district's general fund. Our fees for service that we're getting ready to do and send up for Friday, that comes right back to pay for our providers. So that kind of gets in the budget line where it's tagged out for our providers.
Thank you for explaining that, because I was trying to figure out how is the code of the employee gonna help our income, and you explained that beautifully. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Dr. Barfield.
Okay, I've addressed most of this throughout the meeting, meeting about Monday. I spoke with Jacob Olivia yesterday about our performance pay, and we have to upload, something. When we met with the union at the end of last year, we had a pretty good plan on what we were gonna do. We were gonna start discussing it, so, that's I just talked to him yesterday about it, and to kind of see, what we need to do to move forward, and looking at talks for this upcoming year, and making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to as far as, performance pay is concerned. Strategic plan, we've kind of discussed it, and I'll get it tomorrow, or hopefully by the end of the week, which would be tomorrow. And then I will send it out to you, and then if you do have any suggestions, please let me know, and I will definitely let her know, because until I say this is it, it's not it. So if you all wanna change something, I'm fully in agreement that, you're right, it is.
Well, if we're gonna put our money there, then we
Right.
need to be in agreement with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because that is our lane, is the budget and the money.
Yep.
And we get out of our lane a lot, but this one is definitely our lane. I'm the first to admit, but I'm trying to
yourself.
figure out.
What is the lane?
That is our lane, I'm
Y'all
pretty
done-
sure.
our
Is
board's
to
done a great
steer the
job.
district, and I don't think we've done a good job in the as far as the strategic plan. And maybe, we didn't, I'm sorry to interrupt your presentation, but I'll be fine. Go ahead.
Okay, we just really are, trying to, all of our schools are needing substitute teachers. This, between now and the end of the year, is always, it's, I've been a principal for many years, and I know Ms. Prolant was many years before me, and substitutes between now and the end of school year is a huge need. Yesterday at Moorhaven Elementary, we had a situation where we had 4 people out for jury duty. I called and spoke with Bonnie Rhymes, and their office was extremely professional, and said that they would, if in the future, if we have a mass amount of teachers, if they'll just call the clerk's office and ask for Bonnie, she can defer their duty, or try to, if there's 4 that get called, then 2 of them can go one day and 2 of them can go another day. Because for our school, we had 4 out on jury duty and 3 out for FMLA. So that's 7 teachers right there. That's a huge impact to our students. And we're trying hard. We're doing sub classes. We're doing everything we can to recruit subs.
I appreciate y'all's help coming over and helping with cafeteria coverage, and Mr. Bigger took a 4th and 5th grade social studies class, and that was very generous, and I do appreciate it.
So we sent, I've asked for my staff, if each one of them would, and myself, we're gonna go out once a month and sub. I know that's not gonna fill all the sub vacancies, but I think it serves a couple of purposes. Number one, sometimes when you're in this building, and I learned this firsthand when I was teaching at Moorhaven High School at the beginning of this year, sometimes when you're in the day-to-day, what's going on, you're seeing, it's easy to sit over here and make policies and procedures when you're not there. So it gives them a different and a fresh look at what's going on, but it also will help, it helps our schools in times of need of substitutes. So once a month, we're gonna be doing that. Also, you know, Ms. Mill, because of the shortage of, because of the sub duty and the FMLA, we've been sending over, cafeteria. Our staff went over, and I have to say, I wanna compliment my staff because Jackie called and said, hey, can you go over and work at the cafeteria duty? And they all were like, oh, absolutely. No one said, oh, I don't wanna do that, or no, it was, yes, absolutely. So I really feel like the camaraderie and the teamwork is, you know, we want everyone to be successful. And I think, you know, it gets, when you've not done cafeteria duty in a while, and you get put in the cafeteria, I think sometimes it's like, oh my God, this is, you know, so it's a conversation, and I don't know if you ever have an extra hour a day, but I would love for you to go over and just go to our cafeterias, and I know they would appreciate the help. Next week, I'm going to be going to California. I did an application for a superintendent summit, and it is an all-paid, they pay. You okay?
I am.
Okay. It's,
Do I do it the wrong way?
they pay for everything, hotels, lodging, lodging, meals. So I am going out there. 70 superintendents from the United States were invited, so I'm getting to go. And one of the things that I highlighted was that I was able to teach a class and what an impact it made on me. And so that was something they'd like for me to bring to the table about that experience. So I'm really excited about that. And I have to tell you, I'm missing my one period a day at the high school. Jackie does not miss it at all, but Dr. Daly and I are secretively talking about how I can get back over there one period a day. But, okay. And, at this time, that's all I have. Thank you. And I will, any questions that, you have, moving forward, you know, as always, please call me and, or, you know, text me and say, hey, you got a few seconds? And I'd love to, I think that we have a great relationship and are working very well together. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate that I can come to each of you and ask for your guidance. So.
Okay, nothing else, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.